All right. It is CPI day, Thursday, October 13th. We are looking at NQ, and it's about 17 minutes after noon hour Eastern time. What a crazy morning, right? Let me just show you what's going on here if you haven't been paying attention. So on NQ, we traded in a consolidated range overnight, taking out lows and highs, which is what I expected, and we talked about it in the Globex session that I did. I said that the afternoon lows should get taken out, and then they should hunt some afternoon highs. I thought for sure we would get this one, and they did, and I just couldn't stay awake to see it, but they did. They did actually take the regular trading hours high, which was a foreshadowing of what was coming next, um, which was the CPI being just a little bit hotter than expected. And everyone just like they just pulled the rug. Everyone just evacuated the building right at the right before the right as the number came out. So and that, but what was interesting is that the open here was especially interesting because there was just no sellers anymore once they tried to test below 10,508.50. They We had some sellers and they just ran into a brick wall and they couldn't even close a 15-minute candle below that after the regular trading hours open. So if you think about it, this is like these are the CPI traders just like reacting to the news, and like algos reacting to the news and all that stuff. And then we have a little time in between that, the news, and then the open when all the participants come in to see what the algos are doing. And so if the algos are programmed, if they're responding to this as a momentum move, they're going to short the voodoo range above and then push lower, and you'll see them not buy the voodoo range level below. It'll look like this, or let me find another one. Like this, right? Like this. They won't respond here like this, right? They won't respond to it because they don't like these mean reversion algos are built to not lose money, right? Like, I don't know how they're programmed or who owns them or what, but what we do know is they're on all the time, and they're simple enough that they can be on all the time and not bleed constant cash. And so when you see that they don't continue this move and that they're not like exiting all of their longs, and instead they're actually consolidating inside this voodoo range, and anytime they get outside of the range a buyer shows up. When the open comes, some humans do push below that low, which is perfect for the reversal. It knocks into this negative 200 draw, and that is from the high here in the afternoon on Monday, and then the other anchors at the voodoo range level that we've been orbiting this whole time, which is 10,860.50. That's the most important level for me, is to see which side of the market we are able to develop volume on it. You can see that all week it's been kind of like the fulcrum for the for all these levers, right? I hope that makes sense. Like, if you ever seen like in physics, right? Like you have like a board, and then it's sitting on top of a support, right? Depending on where you move that support, it's going to give one side a lot more leverage than the other, and you're going to be able to make really big moves in one direction really easily if that fulcrum is positioned to trap the other side. And so that's exactly what happened here, where we got the longs a little bit overcommitted, going a whole, like, see, if this is the fulcrum, right? We have 1, 2 voodoo ranges away, and they're knocking on the door up there. We've already cleared those stops out, by the way. That's done. But those guys got a little over anxious, over committed. And so what happens is, since the fulcrum's actually here and not here, the shorts have an easy time. You don't need a lot of energy. See that it's actually lower volume than before, and you get lower prices. That's once you identify the balance point, once you identify this, that they're orbiting around it, and you see that they're expanding the range, but they're not going in one direction, you know you're in expanding negotiation phase. And if you don't know what that means, watch my video on the voodoo range, and I explain how having these levels and the range on your chart when you're analyzing it can help you identify what phase of the market you're in. This is classic expanding negotiation. And I said it like Tuesday, you guys. Like, I was like, lows are going to break, highs are going to break. And every day, it's just like lows break, highs break, lows break, highs break. Every session, we had one inside day. But even on that inside day, the one before it, the session, the London session before it, you can see that one got beat here, right? So I have one inside day, and then right away the London session before CPI started breaking lows and breaking highs, and so as soon as we go back into, as soon as you see that starting again, you can expect that this consolidation is the center, basically, of that expanding negotiation. So all you'd have to do, really, the voodoo range helps make this easy, but all you'd have to do, if you know the level is here, right? All you'd have to do is measure down to how far we went, which is 376 points from the midpoint. And so now, $376 is 11,239. We have a fib based on the voodoo range right there, and that is at 11,238.50. Think that might be an important target? Yeah, it is. It is. It's 200. See, we got to the negative 200, and like I said, it's anchored at that voodoo range for a reason. I draw them that way for a reason. So we might not hit it today. That would be pretty crazy. Could happen. But I want to know that this level is important. And so we're going to change this to red. And we're going to watch that. And then you can, now that we know it's important, right, which we didn't really know until we saw where the low was. But now that we know it's important, I did ES yesterday, Ed. I did ES yesterday. So, yeah, now that we know that's important, we can go back and see that we had a consolidation here. It's still on YouTube. You can watch it. And then consolidation here. So now if you want to get real fancy, you could find these consolidations around that level. Like, see how this one is clearly respecting it. And then we had that move here, and this move here. Any of these, you could actually, oops, that's the wrong tool. You could draw the volume profile. Where is it? Here. You can draw the volume profile of one of these moves. Let's try this one. We bounced off of it right there, right? So this is the end of the impulse move down. So we're going to start on the retrace, and we're going to bring it all the way over until we left the area, which is here. Oh, okay, it's like right there. That's right. So now let's just do this. The value area of the, see how it's nice and normally distributed? That's good. We could have used this one too, and it's going to be a little bit smaller, but you'll see what I'm doing in a minute. This is the biggest one I could find. So stretch that out. And now we know that when the market gets up here, it's going to enter that volume area from that consolidation right here, which happens to be another fib level, interestingly, drawn from the voodoo range, 11,165, whatever, and change. And then the most of the volume was actually done above this voodoo range level, above 11,212.50. So the idea is if we can break 11,175, chances are we get to 11,239. That's the way to think about it. Sometimes you will get a rejection here, but eventually they will come up to where all the volume was. How they respond to that volume is actually what's going to tell us if we need another pullback. But like if I was trading options, what I would be doing is calculating how I could get my risk reward correct to have a target at 11,230 or 11,200 to 11,230, and try to figure out like what's the best way to like build a put spread or something that would pay me the most if we could get into this area without risking too much. That would be my primary target. It just doesn't have to be today, right? So with futures, even though you know that that's like where the market wants to go, you don't know the path it's going to go there. But then let's look at the current situation. So because that's obviously pretty far away. Oops, I lost this. So currently, our high is here, just underneath the voodoo range level on NQ, and then we tested way up there, 88 points above, and then closed below this one. So that's what would have told us that it's probably ready for some rest. It doesn't mean it's a reversal. It's just like change the batteries, right? Like reload here a little bit, get sellers to commit. And where are they probably going to get stuck? Well, you could figure out where all the volume was overnight. That's probably a good place to start. So go here all right. So there's a volume build right where we are, see that? And then there's the high volume area here. If we break back into this high volume area, let me draw over here so it makes more sense. If we break back into this, we could retrace quite a bit, right? So what we want to see this hold the low volume node. That's what we want to see. Now it did hold here, right, on the first pullback, but that was before the change in character. So it's very possible that we got to take out one of these lows first. So we should not be anxious to buy. So once we have that figured out, we also don't want to short though because it's coming right into a support zone. So now that we know that, we can actually mark it off on our chart. So that level was 11,905. Well, I already had it, 11,905.50. And so that's that level where the that's the shaded yellow area that started right there. See that? If we don't get there, I'm going to look like a dumbass, but that's okay. So really what I want is to, this one got awfully close. And there was a support zone here. So it's okay if it takes off without us, not a big deal. But what I really want is a high odds entry in that area. And then I could also measure where the volume is on this time frame. We don't really need that. Okay, so all the volume was here and here. So we can draw the two high volume nodes. I might have missed it. So see how they came down here? They trapped these two stars with a speed trap. And then another star came in to fight, but a big volume bounce occurred right where they were trapped. And then they slow grind down. They try to flip momentum short. They sellers or buyers pull their orders and they suddenly shift volume up. So the ideal entry would be get volume up here and then get this green bar to show up again. But this was probably the entry. But let's see, we didn't technically develop volume above this quite yet. So it might not be too late. It's just, there's so much volatility that we don't really know if we're going to get a retrace. But it is bullish, or if you didn't know that. It is bullish. Okay. Did we get it? Okay, we got the volume developed above both VPOCs. Right, wave to the low, wave off the low. This is where all the volume is down here, and we've now gotten a VPOC above it. So our highest odds trade would be bringing it back in here, printing another green bar like this, and shifting volume back higher after testing that area. I don't know if we're going to get it. It might just go, right? But if we want to have like the highest odds of not getting stopped out, and we're like aggressively buying low or whatever, that's how you do it. Otherwise, to know when this is over, you can mark this. And getting volume up here would indicate that this momentum push down was like overcooked. So let's see if we can get these things to work out. Like I said, ideally, I want a pullback, and then I want a bar that looks just like this, or a star, but preferably a green one, so that volume can shift back up, and then I want to see volume developed up here, and then I want to see that hold. But the entry would be right here if it's a green bar. Let me see. Shit, come here. I gotta get to my down. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to leave all that stuff there. I just don't want to miss the entry in case they give it right here. Doesn't mean it's gonna work. The stop would go on the bottom of the bar. It's got to actually trigger and signal. I'll get rid of all the arrows in a minute. Hold on. It's just so fast today. I don't want to miss it. And the minute I go back up there to that other screen, I've got the down on the other screen, so it's just. And yeah, let's see if I get a star. It's a little high on the. I don't think I'm gonna get an algo here. Nope, nothing to do. No signal. So that star, oops, is way too high for me to buy. Even if it did print up here, I can't buy that. It has to be preferably below the midpoint. I would have taken this if it was a star, but it wouldn't have been great. What I want now is actually for this to get taken out and then to print a green bar. That's really what I want. I'd like them to settle back down here where the volume was. That'd be ideal. But the pink bar is not an entry. Pink bar is kind of the opposite of that. It's like sellers just pulled their orders and like price just like floated up. So it's like most likely the entry's already occurred, but we'll see. This was the ideal entry. I just wasn't looking at it. We literally came back and it was here. So we were just talking about it, but you know, there'll be another trade. It's okay. I'm not going to chase it. Because it could just come back and set up again. Even if it gets under this and then comes back up with a green bar or a star, it's actually still good. Okay, let's see if we get it here. So star up. I don't really like seeing those stars coming down. Sign of momentum shift. But if they fight back with a green bar, we're good. Here we go. 43. Will it be green? See, that's, yeah, there's aggression on the downside. We can just, there we go. It should be green if we can get that shift to occur. So I've got a stop order to buy at 43.25 because I can see that it's going to close right here at 43. And now if there's no algo, oh, it might not fill anyway. But if I would have gotten filled and there was no algo, I'd just immediately exit. If there's no algo signal, and if it closes bearish, I gotta cancel the order. But I've got the order in and my mouse over cancel order, because if it fills and there's no buy signal, I have to immediately exit. I'm not allowed to be in if there's no signal. it's lunchtime. Like, they could totally play around down here for a while. There's really no rush to get. I mean, if they get me in, they get me in. But if they don't, it's not a big deal. But I love how they came back and bounced right off that VPOC. That's definitely what we want. The challenge is the 120-minute VPOC. You can see the dashed line right here. It's coming from way up here. So, which is fine. That could be really good, actually. But if we can't get up there, we've developed volume at the highs. And so the faster we get back up there, the better. Let's just put it that way.
Order filled.
Okay, did I get an algo signal? It's not the one I wanted, but it's technically valid. I'll let it go. It's valid. It's just those usually get stopped out, and then I'd have to re-enter. But it's worth it to take it twice. It basically just means there's a volume anomaly in that bar, but it didn't trigger a star or a green bar. But the extra volume here makes sense. The problem would be these bars tend to get retraced, and then if it would come back, I'd need to be willing to take it a second time, and I am. So we'll see if it can. It's just got to develop volume up here, and we're good. I will take some early profits. Yeah, I'll take some early profits just in case. Right here, assuming we give it a little push, just in case it tests up there and just gives up. I want to make sure I get paid something. Oh, I might have missed it. Got a little greedy. I wanted this to get tested. They might stop me. Like I said, these bars notoriously get stopped once. And then they sneak right back through. So I guess I could have taken profit at like 8 points instead of 10, but I like 10. Oh, did I not move my stop? Fuck, I don't think I put my stop in the right spot. Fucking A. Shit. Come back. I'm gonna
Order canceled.
I forgot to adjust my stop. They stop me right underneath. If they come back, I have to try it again. It's actually the better entry if they trigger it again. Here. I will try it twice. And that's why I kept it, because I planned on taking it twice. So now it's at 43 for the entry. So 43.25 again. Sounds awfully familiar. So here we really do need, oh wait, did we trap underneath it? We don't need an algo signal here. But we do need it to close bullish. See how it went underneath by like 1 tick? And that's where it took me out. Because I couldn't get down there to adjust my stop to a whole point. I wanted it under this purple. And I forgot to adjust it because I was distracted talking about it. And I forgot to set it up in the right spot. And so it automatically just went to the bottom of the bar. And it took me out by 1 tick. Which is like, you know, stupid execution mistake. So I do need to get back in if they re-trigger.
Order
I should.
filled.
Okay, so I got filled again. And like I said, now there's the star. That's what I want. Now I'm going to do this right and set the stop where it's supposed to be. Which is here. 24. Oh, did it not hit my target? I thought it went up there and got it. Weird. I guess it didn't reach it. Should fill.
Order canceled.
There we go. So order canceled means I got my profits. I'm gonna hold it a little bit longer. That's exactly what I wanted, is for a pullback to get bought right there. So we're gonna go ahead and hold this for a bit. But you can see how as long as you stick with it, like, you might take a stop here and there, but like it, you know, as long as you don't freak out, you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Eventually works out. So at least now it's on the risk. If it rolls back down, I won't lose very much because I've already taken off almost half my position. A little more than a third, I guess. So now we just have to see if we can get an extension. And we'll see. But this is exactly what it looks like when you do. So we are long from here. Like I said, I took the sketchy entry and missed my target by like 2 points, and then it pulled me back, and I forgot to adjust my stop underneath the POC, and so it took me out by a tick. Which, like I said, I should know better. I do know better. I just wasn't thinking about it. It's so volatile today that I can't use like standard 15-point stops. It's moving like 20 points a minute or something. So you can't do that. I mean, you can. You'll get hurt. And so I gave away like a full stop for really no reason. But that's okay because I'm up on the day now. But it's just like frustrating. So we already talked about my target. If you missed that, I'll show you the other screen in a minute. But we've got it. We should have marked it on this. I'll show you real quick. So we want to be taking out these highs since we took out this low. We want to come up and take out these highs. It doesn't have to go to high of day. Okay, hold on. I got to make sure I'm taking profits appropriately. Give me a sec. With these extended moves, like you have to get paid when this happens. It's got a purple pivot here. I might I'll wait. Tempted to just to bail, but I think the right thing to do is just to give away a piece of it and hold a couple runners, because I did have a level there, that white area here. So let's see if we can get 3 more covered. Fuck, they just missed me. You bastards. Come on back. Come on back. Twice in a row now it's gonna miss me like that? Come on. That's the problem with NQ, is like you get frustrated by the freaking price action. It's like it just missed me. Which probably means I shouldn't take profits there, right? Because now it's gonna scream through it if I'm right. I don't like that. Okay, come here. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I get filled here. Feeling frustrated. I'm gonna bail because I feel a little irritated that it didn't fill my stop, and I'm not gonna be able to manage the rest of the move correctly. So I bailed on it. I don't like seeing pink bar, orange bar, especially with an arrow. It's not bearish, right? But I mean, the situation is not bearish, but this is a short signal. So it's like, it probably just means we're going to pull back and then bounce again. But especially after, I literally put my target, I thought, right in here, and I was just eyeballing, and I said that it was probably about 10.9780, and it missed me by a point. Which is frustrating because I also got stopped by a point earlier, so it's just like, why is it so close? So I guess I just have to be a little bit more liberal and let those go. But I'm completely out of the position. When I get flustered like that, and then I see a short signal, I'll just, I know it's going higher, but like, I don't want to have to make hard decisions when we get like a major pullback back into like break even. So I'll just cash out and then wait to see if it can reset, because it's really frustrating to miss your fill and then see it come all the way back and then like stop you out. Even though it's only runners, it's like, it's still like psychologically challenging. So I would rather just like take keep in mind that's a pretty good trade. Like for me, going from 43, was it 43.25, 43, let's say, and then I wanted to get out like 35, 40 points. But even when I see this and I get out in here at 30 points, that's a good trade for me. Like if I could just do that every day, I'd be in good shape. So you really don't need a lot of those. When it goes further, it's always nice, but it doesn't have to make money. You don't need 50, 100 point moves on this system to make money. You just need to catch this. So I could have just exited all as soon as I saw that and not even try for the second one. But I guess maybe I held it a little bit longer. Did it flip down here? my fill is a little lower than I thought it would be. So I guess it's only a 20-point move, but that I actually got paid for, but still, like, still a good trade. A little bit better than average. My average trade is about 12 to 15 points. So if I can do better than 15, it's a solid trade. Sometimes my runners go a lot further than that. But when I take all the runners that stop and all the runners that pay and all the first, core targets getting hit, if I take all that and take the average of it, it's around 15 points. It's been a little bit lower than that lately, but that's because the ranges were a little bit tight. But over time, it's been around 15 points. So you got to consider the fact that if you have an opportunity to take more than an average trade off the table, and especially when I got stopped in an execution error like that, like, usually you should do it. The PRC channel, Ed, I'm not sure what that is. Oh, is this going to trigger long again? Purple bar followed by a green bar is technically
Order
long.
filled.
We're going to do it. It bounced right off the voodoo range. See that? We're going to give this a try. I don't know if it's going to work, but I could have taken a small size, I guess. This is valid. So you never know if it's going to work. But it's, once again, it's a valid. If it's still bullish, it will lift. High volume shift, right at the voodoo range level. If it's trending up, that's the higher low. So again, I'm going to take profits like I always do on the way up. And then if we can extend it, cool. But see how, like, I didn't get too upset about the fact that, even though I made execution errors and they didn't fill me, I just managed the situation, waited for the next trade entry, and then I'm right back to where I started with runners in the same area, see? So I could take more off here, and that kind of makes sense, because that way you, even if it turns around on you right here and makes like a lower high, you still get a higher than average trade, and then I can still hold a runner or two. So if they'll just push a little bit higher, I will go ahead and take another two off. If they could do that. Polynomial regression channel. Okay, Ed, I'm not, I'll look into that. That's one I don't know. At least not by that name. Are you talking about these bands? I don't think that's what that is. Oh, yeah. They're it's a twist on the Fibonacci bands. It's like a recalculated. If you do a Sierra chart search for Fibonacci bands, and then like tweak it. It might be the same thing. I don't know, but I've changed the settings on the Fibonacci bands that come with Sierra chart to match the inner channels here. Now, those aren't Fibonacci bands, but I'm using the same settings as those, and I'm applying them to the Fibonacci bands instead.
Order canceled.
There we go. Okay, got my second fill. So now I've just developed all of a sudden it's a killer day just from those two 20-point trades, 20+ point trades, but I still have two runners. So again, our targets are any of these lines basically, but primarily 36.50 if they'll give it to us. Otherwise, this one, 50 basically would be a home run. I don't know if I'll get it, and I can't hold it for too long because I'm using the trailing drawdown account. So it can't. I'm not going to be able to hold if it pulls back. I'm just gonna release the runners and get it again. If it triggers short, I'm not gonna really have a choice. But the fact that we got out of the bands and then we're trying to get back in there, it's probably a sign that we're going to pull back. But if there's no bearish bar that closes with a VPOC inside the bands, there's nothing to worry about. So it would only be if this one closes bearish like that. Nope. Very, very, very illiquid on NQ. Those moves had like 4 points of, or 4 ticks of slippage. Like the order book is just opening up a bit as traders come back from lunch. Okay, if I had more pieces, like if I would have taken like 12 micros or something, I'd take profits again at this push, because what they like to do is just take liquidity and then roll it. 1100 is a really important level, and you'd think that they'd try to test behind it, but it might take them a couple tries. So what I really want, though, is like a spike through it and then just a bunch of shorts covering, and I will get paid well if that happens. But like I said, it doesn't have to happen the very first try. It might have to set up again. But I've got small size now, so I will. Oh, there's the short signal. Let's see if that confirms. They need to beat that right away. No, I'm out. So there's no aggression, and I can't hold with bearish bars closing inside the channel because they do this. They're going to roll it back to my entry. So the runners were basically just a little bit like just a regular 10-point trade, but I did get filled twice up here. So that's good. Remember, that's why I took profit when we pushed here, so that I could hold those runners. Now, if I didn't have a trailing drawdown account, what I would do is keep my stop here with my runners on, but because it cost me money to hold my contracts as if I got into a trade at my high water mark, which is bullshit, but it's just the way that it works with these prop accounts, at least until you build a big enough cushion. I can't let the price, let the even 2 contracts go back against me, because it would be as if I bought right here. And then, yeah, that's what you have to think about. If I bought right here, where would my stop be? Like, no one wants to be buying there, but if you did, where would you put your stop? That's where your stop goes for those trailing drawdowns, because you literally bought the top. Is it going to signal again?
Order filled.
Okay, I doubt this is going to work for a 3rd time, but we're going to keep trying it until it stops. It's probably going to stop. But if they'll give me another 10 points here, I'll take it. It's going to continue to set up. Technically need to put the stop under this triangle. Fuck. Yeah, we're good. It may not work. One of these is going to fail. But if it keeps signaling, I'm going to keep... if it keeps triggering, I'm going to keep listening to it as long as it's working. But you can see the position in the channel is good here. Getting 3 in a row to fire off into new highs is pretty rare. But today has been pretty abnormal, so... Oh, you know what? This close below this pink, that might make this invalid. Well, I'm in the trade now, but that's something I can look at. See, this one did not get a VPOC below that first pink bar. This one did. I'm pretty sure this is going to stop. That might be a stop I can avoid. I just noticed something that I didn't see before. I didn't get stopped out yet. I put it a point below. Looks like they're going to take it, though. But I see it. I see what I did wrong.
Canceled.
All right, so stopped. Still very green on the day. The problem with this one is this very first bar here is a momentum shift, or they increase momentum here, and they traded a bearish bar with a VPOC below that. So generally, the volume shifts up in that situation is just to retest where those traders are trapped. And I knew that, but I didn't see it. I knew that theoretically, but I didn't identify that. So let's see if this does play out, because if that's the case, then this should be a sell. And they should have a hard time getting behind this orange bar. If that doesn't happen, then it's just so bullish that what usually constitutes a momentum shift might just create a brief break, and then they come back here, they can't get under this one, and they'll run. I've seen that many times. But seeing a bar close with a VPOC below the first bar that's got a pink background is generally a sign that the very next volume shift up like this is going to get rejected in that zone, right? Because now these are trapped traders, but they don't have to stay trapped if it's bullish enough. So technically, you could buy this if it closes bullish. It's just aggressive, but it's not as aggressive as this was. This was more aggressive now that I see that. So I could try to get it back.
Order filled.
Let's do it. So trap back in, and let's see if we can get it to work. Oh fuck, that doesn't have a power bar. Is that 2 execution errors in a row? I think it's okay, because it did not go below this. I think it's all right. If this does not have a power bar, that might not be valid. This is the problem with trading and streaming at the same time, is I'm not completely focused on the decision making, and so sometimes things look one way, and then you look closely, it's like, oh, hold on, there's a piece of that makes that not perfect. You know what? I'm gonna bail on it, because I don't think it's actually valid. Let me take a quick break, you guys. If this runs now after, so I just exited the position because I realized it's probably not a valid signal here, because I was thinking that it's a trap back in, but it's not. So I went ahead and exited. But making that mistake, if it works, if the move works, I could get frustrated. So let me just take a quick break, grab a drink, and I will be right back. Because like I said, I want to see if, I shouldn't really care if it works, right? But I believe that entry is not kosher. But I need to make a note of where it is, so I can compare it to some of the other things in my journal where it's a similar situation that was valid, and see if I can figure out whether or not I should be taking this trade here. So let me just go grab a drink, run to the bathroom, just reset a little bit, and then we'll come back and we can delve into that if you want, or I can look for other examples, or we'll just keep trading, or at least watching. But I am up, so I mean it's fine. It's just yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this move. My first instinct was it's dropping back into the green bar, and it's probably going to extend, like I said, which very well makes sense, because you've got a bullish tilt on the market, so you just kind of want to get long whenever you have an opportunity to get a volume shift up, or some sort of aggression, or a trap. And the star being here might make it more valid. I'm not sure. I will come back, you guys. Give me a second. Well, shit, that one got away. Okay, so the question is, instinctually, I was pretty sure this was an entry. The problem was that this was not a power bar. It didn't have one of these little things here, the little flags, the sideways triangles. But usually, when it does, this is a really, really strong entry. So I instinctually reacted and then saw that it doesn't have a power bar and got out for a small gain. And then, yeah, it did what I thought it was going to do. So what I'm trying to figure out here is, this was the low, right? So we had a move to the, or not the low, but the lower of the two. So we have a move, whoops. We have a move to a low and a move off the low. We had two volume builds. Sorry, lots of lines. Two volume builds. And whoops. So what we needed was price to get up here, which it did. Price to come back and fill this low volume node in the middle and get back to the, test the high volume node, preferably below it, which it did. I bought this, right? That's a valid entry. There's no question in my mind that this one's good. They then tried to break it with a star, pushing the market back down to this one. And so what I'm wondering is, where is the volume on this one? Oh, that is what I measured. So it's right here. That is what I measured. So where is the volume on this one? To the high. Yep. So now volume build is here. So similarly, every time goes up, establishes volume above, pulls back, sneaks underneath this high volume node. They try to bounce it. That bounce fails. They get a volume shift and it moves higher, right? That's pretty normal. And what I don't know is whether or not you can take this, even though it doesn't have an algo signal, because it went under a valid entry. Now this one's a sketchy entry because there's no volume. See how volume actually dropped to the bottom, and then they pressed, but they didn't see any volume continue, and then when they did, they fell down. So this one is not a very good entry, but this one was a valid entry. And so when it is a valid entry, my memory is that when you then stop it out and come right back, that you don't even need an algo signal, and that buy is actually very strong for like a potentially like impulse move to the upside when these guys get trapped. That's my memory, but I'm going to have to talk to my coach about whether or not this needs to be a power bar. But the more I think about it, I don't think it is most of the time. Just like this one doesn't have one. And now this one thankfully triggered and we caught it. And this one did trigger long. There's really no way that I can see that you would know that it's going to have to go just a little bit lower. So like your choice is skip the trade and wait for the really rare high odds one, or just take it twice. And so my decisions to get into trades were good, but I couldn't remember. This setup is so rare, you guys, but so good. Like, I only see it once in a while, and it's usually during trend days, and I just forgot whether or not that was an important aspect of whether or not this flag needed to be over here. I couldn't remember. And because I made another execution error earlier with not moving my stop because I was distracted, I suddenly got panicked when we were like right here in this bar and was like, wait, am I in an invalid entry? I'm supposed to exit if I'm in an invalid entry. Let's just get out for a small profit, right? And so I made like nothing on it, like $40. So I got lunch, but yeah, it should have been, that should have been lunch, dinner, dessert, and breakfast for tomorrow. So at least I caught the first one. But that's definitely going to go in the category of one that got away, because I had a level there. I was in the market, and I just got a little bit spooked because I thought I might be off process, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I'm afraid of making trades that aren't, thinking things are a valid trade when it's not. If my brain is seeing trades that don't exist, that's what I'm afraid of. Where my emotions make me make irrational decisions that aren't following the plan. And so like I said, when I have a sense that that might be happening, I do kind of react with a bit of panic, because that, I wasn't worried about losing money. I didn't care if the thing stopped out. What I didn't want was, whether or not it was going to work or not, I did not want it to be off process. I didn't want to take a trade that I wasn't supposed to be in. And so I was willing to give up the opportunity to see the big push and just take a small win on it, and call it a potential execution error, rather than know that I'm unsure of whether or not I'm supposed to be in or not, and then have to explain later, like in a coaching session, that like I got long there because there wasn't, even though there wasn't an entry. And basically, like, that idea that I might take trades without the algo is very scary to me, because back when I traded without the algo signals, I couldn't consistently make money. So I'm like traumatized by the idea that I might be making decisions just based on gut feel. That is like the most scary thing. That's what blows up accounts, in my opinion. So that's the reason why I exited. You know, it's a little disappointing that I was actually right, and it was a valid entry and it did work, and I wasn't able to hold it. But my reasoning for getting out, the fact that I thought it might be off process, the right thing to do in that situation is to take profits early, to get out while it's ahead, if you don't think you like the trade. And while I thought I liked the trade, I didn't think it was, I was afraid it might not be valid, because I just suddenly looked here and didn't see it. I was thinking about it like I was mixing up two different trades, because there's a trap trade and then there's this very rare, it's just a different kind of trap. Well, right, exactly, Ed. You said discretionary trading tends to be inconsistent. Any mechanical trading system will give you consistency for good or bad. Exactly. You're right. And I was more of a boom bust trader when I wasn't using any like signals, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Like when things went well and when I was making good decisions, I'd do fine. And then, but the problem was I had no built-in way to identify that my poor decision making was the reason I was losing, rather than like the market's having a rough day or whatever, right? Like all the other reasons you might be losing. Like I was actually just not trading very well, but I didn't know it because I had no clear picture of what the correct entries and exits look like. It was just, this looks long, I need to get long. Where can I put my stop, right? Like I had a plan, and I had structure to my thinking, but I did not have objective rules for these like mathematical based conditions must be there for me to get in. And if it's not, I cannot be in a trade. I didn't have those strictive rules. It was just like, I like when the market looks like this. When it does that, I like to buy here relative to that move, right? And so sometimes like I like when the market looks like this, I would picture what looks like this should be, and that would change all the time. It was like, it wasn't objective. It was subjective. It was discretionary. It was just like, ooh, the price action's right, and everyone's pushing higher. Shorts are trapped. Let's go. But I didn't have like a mathematical way, an objective way to be like, there is the trap seller, and this is how I know it's trapped enough. You know, because if it's 100 traders, I'll do it. If it's less than 100, I won't. Like, I had no quantifiable way to determine if there was a trade or not. And that meant that I didn't know whether or not I was actually following my system or not. And so when I would lose, I would then start to not follow my system, and I wouldn't even know it. Which meant drawdown. Because now, like, I was thinking I was trading something with a plan, but the plan was shit. So, yeah, I realized that the solution is have an objective way to get in and out of trades. That's technically an entry, but it's really, really, really high. It's technically a long, but what I'm saying is you have to have vision for this breaking up here right away for that to work. I'm not saying it can't. It can, and it's valid. It just feels a little aggressive after making this huge move up to just take the first signal that shows any sign of aggression to the upside. It's the same exact problem as before. First bar with a pink background, we've gotten a bearish candle underneath. It's not valid. It's a new idea, and I like it. That would have kept me out of this one. And then I could take this one. So, in other words, if we come down and then bounce, I can buy it. Whoops. Let's just double check on ES now that I have those these algos correctly. Well, I think it's correct, but at least better calibrated. Let's take a peek at ES too. By request from Ed. On ES, what we did. So ES is over here. Same layout, just slightly different rules. On ES, what we saw, let's see if we can do both, is this is yesterday, right? So consolidated, broke the low, broke the high. That's what needed to happen. Once that happened, the humans could come in and do whatever they want. Algos help them sell. Where did they sell to? It's the same exact thing, you guys. Test. It's literally the same thing. Like I showed you this. Look. It's the same signal. See that? Testing below. Algos aren't selling. They keep buying it. Humans come in and sell it. Algos aren't selling it. It's going higher. Look. Test. Algos aren't selling it. Humans come in and sell it. Algos aren't selling it. It goes higher. It's the same. And like I said, levels. And then look at the entry right here. Pull back. Tap the level. Go. NQ is pretty. So ES did not have as good of a back test on the 30-minute chart, but if you were, because it was just so fast, but if you were looking closer, you would find a trap entry here, and then there's your test. And then here too, test, bounce. So you're not going to get it at the level, but once you see that candle like pullbacks into here and aggression back up, like this on the higher time frame, right? That's where you want to get long. That's where you want to get long. And then on a bigger time frame, right? Up, pull back into this important level that we've been orbiting all the time, this one, 3606. If they can't get it under this, see that? They can't get it under it right there. That's bullish. Because that was support and resistance over and over again. And then suddenly we get over it and we can't even get back to test it. That's a buy. Now we're running into this one. You can see we slowed down quite a bit. And now we're going probably back into like a period of expanding negotiation. So break this low, break this high right now. And then we'll see which direction they want to take it for the time being. But we have to take this liquidity first. The easier way to go is up because there's more liquidity up here. It was just a purple pivot that we got stuck on. And those don't usually stand in the way on trend days. See, like usually you get this where they test it, they reject, and then they rip through it. So test, reject, consolidate, rip through it. It doesn't have to happen on the very first try. It could. But that's I'm bullish for sure. I'm definitely not selling it. The question is where do you want to get long? All right, well, I guess that star was actually a decent entry. Even though we got underneath this pink, they didn't care. They just ran it. So that's interesting. Did this one get underneath the pink? Maybe it's because ES didn't. Look, ES couldn't get a VPOC below it, trapped the star. The setup is better on ES. So ES probably pushed, and then even though NQ was trying to get it down, they just couldn't because ES was pushing too hard. So now that same setup could happen here if they pull back. Under here, and then bounce. And then here it's this one. The very first bar that is pink in the background is the start of that momentum shift. See, this is all fighting, 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 fighting. This is breakout. So once they come back there, if they give that up with volume, like same here, right? Fighting, 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 goodbye. And then they come back, and what do? They test back into this fighting area. And so usually if you put some volume down here, they can take over on the next pull, on the next move up, they can roll over. But here the momentum was so good that they got another one. And in ES, it couldn't even get volume down here. They just aggressively shorted it from up here and then gave up. So, pretty bullish. Basically now you just you can just buy every green bar or every star and you'd actually do okay. Otherwise, you can wait until we get a pullback into a range of up triangle like this. That's usually a pretty good buy. Like it's just all the momentum stuff is going to work now. Orange bar followed by green bar, star down followed by speed trap. Like all of those momentum trades. See, star down followed by speed trap. You can just scalp all of those now. I didn't adjust quite fast enough. I saw this one and thought this was probably the beginning of the end. And so I didn't want to take an aggressive entry, but it was good. And now this doesn't look like the end at all. This looks like this is like just on fire bullish. Whatever you do, don't short it and be glad you're not short. There's no reason at all to trap yourself. That's a nice pullback. See that? If I'm going to buy a breakout, it's going to look like this, but I won't. I'm not supposed to do it, so I won't. Especially not when I'm up on the day. I don't like that it's pink, though, but the location's perfect. But look how big this move is compared to the other ones. This one got quite extended, and then we're still going up even though it's not pink anymore. We're probably going to get a pretty significant retrace here. But that's great, because then maybe it'll give us a chance to buy. Like I said, this one would have been aggressive, but it was valid. I gotta figure out how to sort through the fact that NQ suggested that buyers might have gotten trapped, but ES didn't. And see if I can look for other places where that happened. Because, I mean, you're not going to catch... Sometimes you're just going to be wrong, but there might be some explanations for things that don't seem to make sense. Now that I have them calibrated correctly, it might show me some, like, glean some learning, a learning opportunity to see like what it looks like when this one like says buyers are trapped for a second, but ES is just like nope, and then they just get they just get pulled like behind the car, as they're like it's like oh, right, the shorts are just totally ripped up. But I'm curious if that's why, if it's because we didn't develop any volume down here on ES, even though we did on NQ. Oh, you know what else you could probably do is look at a higher time frame. That's okay. But I could probably change this to a higher time frame, and I'd probably see that I know what I can do. I bet the volume is at the highs. Yep. Way up here. Right at 1100. Oh, that makes sense. So they snuck below 1100, got a little bit of volume underneath, and then immediately retook 1100. That's funny. That's exactly what I said I thought it would see. Test above it, like take all the shorts, take all the short stops, try to pull back, and fail to hold underneath it. That's exactly what happened. I just wasn't paying attention to where we were. And look at all that delta, right? Woo! All of that delta on the bid, like everybody's selling there. It's like, it didn't hold 1100, go. It didn't go hold 1100, go. That's what that is. Yeah, that's LOL right there. And then look at see this agreement where like there's no difference in delta. So you could mark off really that whole area and say that everybody agrees. Like there's an even number of buyers and sellers. There's obviously an even number of buyers and sellers everywhere, but there's an even number of aggressive sellers and aggressive buyers doing business at the market. It's even. It was even right here, more or less. And then right behind them, they were all doing business on the bid, and right above them, they were all doing business on the offer. See that? So these guys are all buying frantically, and these guys were all selling frantically. And so if you take, let's see, that was that one. So off this low, the volume's at the highs, you guys. So we could get a nice retrace here, and it still won't be bearish. I'm not going to short it, but what I'm saying is that even if we retraced it significantly, it's still a buy down here. But look at that distribution. So where is it probably going to go when it pulls back? Probably into one of these low volume nodes. When is that going to happen? I don't know. Wish I was long still. I do have calls and long-term positions that I start. Oh, nice. Look at that. Jesus. Hallelujah. Look at her go. So just look how they can't even get under that volume build. Dude, shorts are absolutely fucked. Wow. Straight back up. Again, if we can break into here, oof. Shorts are in big trouble. Man, oh man. I can't remember the last time we had economic like pre-market release that gapped down below previous day's low and then broke above previous day's high and kept going. I've seen it happen where then it goes back and fills the gap, but where it just keeps going, this is unusual price action. Tempted to take profits on my calls. But I mean, why? Like there's literally just no offer. Like shorts are just absolutely screwed. We're back into prices we haven't seen since the beginning of the week. Ugh. Hate the idea that like it technically could just like retrace significantly and I'd have to hold through the pain on my longer term stuff, but because I don't remember the last time we had a day like this where we put in like 4% moves, but there's just no reason to sell it. I'm just so glad I'm not short. Good Lord. This is definitely not a sustainable breakout, though. If it breaks this, that is capitulation. And I would have to take profits into here. Like I said, it's unfortunate I didn't catch it on futures. Or I did catch it, I just didn't hold it. Okay, that's a aggressive short that I'm not going to take, but maybe I should sell these. I'm feeling a lot of pressure to sell these. That usually means it's not a very good idea. My instincts are not very good when it comes to those things. I will wait. Look at how poorly that performs. This orange bar way above the channel, like especially when it's above the trade and perform channel. Like look how far that is from the channel, and it still can't even reach the channel. Like, what? That is sick. Sick. Bloody bullish. Like, why? I know this works most of the time, but like here it did, for instance, but holy shit. Buy green bars, buy stars, fucking buy triangles if you want. Like, anything to the upside. They're just going to keep crushing them. I don't know how long it's going to go, but like, super tempted just to like buy a breakout, which like I said probably means it's almost done, but my instincts on that is horrible because I've just seen so much balance that I know what normal is, and we can say for sure this is abnormal price action, and so right there, like whatever your instinct is going to be wrong. There's where all the volume is. See that? Down here. Where the fuck is the VPOC from 2 hours ago? It was here. Where did it go? Is it sitting under this line? 1100? Sure. It's at 1100. Oh, that's funny. So they may need to come back to 1100. They may need to come back to 1100. It's probably too late now to buy it. Probably. Could be wrong. Probably too late to buy it. I'm definitely not fading it, Ed. Don't worry. Wouldn't, in my wildest dreams, consider fading this. They literally can get it all the way down here, and they'll still end up buying it. God, I want to sell those calls so bad. It hurts to hold in such profit, but I know it's the right thing to do. I'm just so traumatized of like 3% days getting like being long like during a Fed meeting or something and just getting absolutely crushed after being up like 3%, like with a swing trade or something. Like, oh, it's just so abnormal for this to happen and to not like. I've seen so many times, it's not going to all come back, but I've seen so many times where they give back like 50% of the move. And it's just like, oh my God, I could have sold way up there, right? And so you get this like anxiety about like, how am I ever going to get out of my long when it like just keeps going up and I can't like make a decision, So it's the natural. Now we do have a level here. But they mean nothing most of the time. See that? Just rips right through them. So it's like, it's only valid if we turn on it. It's not good enough just to take profit because we touched it. It's like, what we want to watch for is, does the market care that we're meeting those important levels? If it doesn't, then we're still trending and it's not consolidating yet. So look, even this scary green bar way above the channel ended up giving you an extension. Like, that's really unusual. like triangle down green bar way up here. Like that should work at support. What they're okay, now we have one here. What the bulls are saying is like they're raising the bar over and over again, saying like I want this to be new support, and I'm willing. They're suggesting, I don't know if they're bluffing or not, but they're suggesting by putting in new momentum here that they would buy even if we pulled back to that area. That's what the narrative that bulls are selling here is that every time they put in a pink background, that's now a new support. And you can see that it does work. Oh, is that a okay? So this is the first sign of capitulation. All right, I'm gonna get ready to sell these calls. That's the first sign of capitulation. It's not there yet, but having this down bar, this down arrow on an up bar like that is often a sign that the next move up is going to be exponential and hard to hold. So let's see. That's the first real reason to consider looking for a sell here. Still don't want to short it, but taking profits on longs after you see that arrow, that yellow arrow on the up bar, any extension beyond that is usually retraced eventually. But I've seen them go like 6-7 candles though, so or bars. So it's like you can't just you don't have to like instant sell it. But if they push here up above 11,124.50, I'm gonna look to sell some of these calls. And I bought these calls really low, so happy about that. I didn't want to manage. I couldn't manage risk with the NQ. Oh, it's SPY, but I couldn't manage risk with futures when we were settling down there. I was afraid I would get my and I would have gotten my stop hit because I did it before the trap. Yeah, it looks like they're and so once I got those and they trap back in, I was like, okay, I'm gonna hold those as long as I can. But see how this arrow on the up bar, especially when it's pink, it suggests that anything that comes after this is actually capitulation. They can do it more than once. It's not always the final capitulation, but there's often some selling that comes after this. It might have just been one bar. But see how the pink background went away and we kept going up? So they were just like pushing up even though there was no real momentum. And turns out that level was important. Okay, I'm getting rid of these calls if I can get filled. Oh, come on, fill me. Real happy with the performance. Oh, you bastards. Come on back. It shouldn't just like rug pull. It should come back and fill me. Now this is a support zone potentially. So this might be a mistake, but usually once you see this, that's a sign of some capitulation. All right, filled. Cool. So happy with that. Those that was how much did I pay for those? Up. Mark. Oh, the trade price disappeared because I got out of the. That's weird. I can't see the trade price. I guess I have to look at my fills. Filled orders. Oh, that's to yeah. I didn't get them for 340. Did I really? 340 to 782. That's sick. Oh, another green bar. Okay, so same exact situation here. We got. Oh wait, we don't have a bar underneath this. This should be safe, interestingly. But I wonder if they're gonna trap it back in. Let's see. I'm not gonna buy it. We're so high up, but I'm just curious how this works. We have not gotten volume underneath this bar. In fact, we haven't gotten price underneath it yet either. So maybe it's better to wait for price to get underneath there and see if they can take volume down there. It feels really icky to buy this, but could be wrong. Yeah. Nice, Ed. Yeah, Ronan's, he ran off and played. He's playing in the hallway. You might hear like a bell or whatever he's chasing. Oh, are they not going to take it out? So maybe that long works here. Like I said, it's definitely abnormal price action. Wow. Okay, star down, star up, star down. So this here is going to be a pivot in the future. They're probably going to hold it here for a bit. I did get out of those, right? Okay, guys. I want to make sure that I got filled. Cool. Oh, hold on. It shouldn't really do much here. It should just kind of chill out in here. But we'll see. We shall see. All right, so this is the trade if anyone's curious. Oh, I don't think oh yeah, no, I could do it here. So the long was after this bounce, which is a voodoo range level and also a fib. This is actually SPX, but like I don't trade ES options. I'll do either SPX or SPY. And so I got long on this candle after seeing that this was holding and this was holding. And I just kind of like stumbled into this because it just didn't really give me any reason to sell it. And then exited just now when we rejected off of here. So I don't hate holding it overnight, honestly. I don't hate that at all. But because of my entry, I figured, you know, that's a good day. If I more than double the options price, I'm gonna usually close it that day because it's too frustrating to give back like good work like that for me. Like it's just I psychologically end up making mistakes in the future. North Korea may have launched several ballistic missiles. Okay. Oh, nice. 100 points, Froggy. Nice work, dude. 100 ES points? Jesus. 395 ticks. Wow. That's really good. Nice job, Frog. Although, to be fair, like, if you're going to get 100 points, ES points in a day, this is the day to do it. It's when it looks like this. Good to know that I'm getting out of that trade just as he is. That's always a good feeling. I should probably post this too. All right. Nice. So they did get under this with volume now. So now bounces back up, should find sellers. Should. Like I said, getting this arrow on an up bar, especially when it's pink, is usually a sign that any buyers up here are very, very susceptible to getting trapped, right? So that's why I could have just exited right there, but and if I would have been trading futures, I definitely would have taken out right there. But with options, I'm going to let it breathe a little bit. I wanted to see if they would hold this. It looked like it was pretty good. They came back. They looked, and then it didn't look like it was good. Like it was good, so I got out on that candle, or maybe it was the one after it. But right here, I got filled out. I'm like, is this technically a short? Let's see. To find out, the setup we would use here to get short would be to draw the volume profile on the way up, find the volume build. So this one's a little tricky because the distribution is not even. See how there's like one right here too? So there's smaller ones here, right? There's all these little distributions here. So you don't really know which ones they're going to do. So what you do then is you draw this, I guess it would be like to there. And you'd see that it highlights this one, right? So the idea is if you can get an entry that either interacts with it like that to sell, or if you establish volume below it, retrace and then reject off of it, either one of those are valid shorts. Let's just start over with the lines. Now we're back into this volume point of control on the big up wave here, the strong up wave. See, remember we talked about it potentially coming back and bouncing off that, and that would be pretty healthy. Thanks, Ed. Nice to have a string of good days. I did have one losing day yesterday, but it was a small losing day, and I've already made up. I've got a winning week now, which is important. Inside days are hard for me. I tend to not do very well on inside days. And like I said, the good news is I know where I made mistakes and I adjusted from having all these extra signals to paring it down. Oh, look, the 2-hour VPOC finally shifted up right at that moment that the sellers came in. That's fascinating. So now we can look back at that lower level. Whoopsies. Oh boy. Hi, kitty. We can look back at the lower level, which was here at 1100, right? That's where it came from. And that becomes our target now. 1100. So because of that, oh, interesting. They put a purple background. So they tried to shift volume. They tried to shift momentum to the downside as they approach that high volume area from the move up. And they put in a momentum shift. So now it's bearish as long as we don't develop momentum, develop volume, sorry, above that. I'm a little tired. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep yesterday. Should have slept from like 9 to 4 a.m. That would have been a lot better, but I ended up staying up to London Open, 2 hours into London Open. And I got to work tomorrow, so definitely not staying up late tonight. Is this an entry? See, I need to, no, there's no green bars over here. There's no way I'd buy that. It's at the VPOC, but we've now pulled back. So now it would be the opposite. It would be developing volume below, coming back, tagging it, and turning around. That would potentially be a short. I don't love doing that, but this one's better. I don't know, maybe it is an entry on the higher time frame. Hold on. On the higher time frame, what does it look like on the 80 tick? I could try the 40 too. On the 80 tick. Okay, so this is all today. So trend day up. Capitulation, see that? Pull back. Where does it pull back to? Where the pink started. Finds buyers. And then you watch this VPOC line, because you'll get pullbacks into it like that. Pullbacks into it. Volume shifts higher. Price tries to go lower. Now it takes, so that's your entry. Whoops. And capitulation coming. And see, they got right there. That's your short, technically. Where is it going? Back to where the pink started. Just right here. Gets there. Whoops. It gets there. Watch volume. Volume was down here. Price is heading towards it. It bounces off the pink zone. Boop. Right? And they can't break that low. That's a long. Unfortunately, because of this capitulation, there were trap buyers up here. The green bar got traded below with volume. So this guy was trapped. When they return to his area, his range, his range. When they return there, sellers are waiting. They take out this low. And do they put in a bar with volume below the pink? Yes. They also shift volume lower here. So now we can move this here and say that it's not bullish unless we can develop volume higher than this voodoo range level. We do that right here. It once again becomes bullish. We get back into this trapped buyer area. They push a little higher, take short stops, and now they're renegotiating that. So what that all means is that on this time frame, we've had some really, really heavy buying and some consolidation where they tried to sell, got a lower low, and then ripped all the way through to get a higher high. Is that bearish? No, it is not. Not bearish. It's bullish, right? On the bigger picture, if you're not sure, on the bigger picture, what you can do is figure out, like we have I've got the VPOC, the dotted white line for a reason here, but if you wanted to, you could go back to where the biggest, so take a look at where the biggest volume was for the day. Obviously it's on the upside. We'll just see if that is true. We've now beaten it. The biggest volume on the day was actually this one. So this is now your primary wave up. And all the volume on that one's at the low. What does that mean? It's like a B profile, right? They trapped shorts at the lows, rocketed higher. Here's the problem. The last time you were at this level, which was here, I bet you anything that this had volume at the high. Low. Oh, it's really bullish, you guys. This is, you don't usually see that. Usually you see volume at the high, volume at the low, chop for the afternoon. This did it twice. It had a double distribution here. There's a distribution right here. It's kind of spread out. And then there's the main distribution. Which technically goes to like here. So what you want is algo signals on a pullback into here, which we got right there. Right, so sellers are exhausted, momentum shifting, that's what the blue means. But you get an immediate, you get a lot of volume down there, an immediate spike where? Back to make a new high so that we can take all the stops that those sellers put in right here. Now, another way to think about this is to draw the volume profile from the point where they start settling down. So see, this one was a high volume, and this next one was a higher high, but a lower high in volume. So that is divergent. So technically, the consolidation zone started here, and it goes all the way to current. And so now we can take a look at that, and we can say, well, what does the volume look like here? And you can see that this is actually distributed pretty well in the middle, with the VPOC in there. See that? Right around 1100. But you can see it's pretty well distributed up here. So where are the holes? There's one here. There's one here, right where we are now. And then there's excess. See that? The excess at the top, and then there's excess down here. Technically, there's a big volume build down here too, but let's not worry about that because we have to get down there first. So we don't have to worry too much about that. So the whole thing, that's what the volume builds look like. Except this one is excess. All the rest of these are volume builds. Right? Did I do that right? No, I'm doubting myself. Hold on. Is it volume builds or yeah? This was the volume build. These were gaps. These are low volume areas. My bad. Yeah, that's okay. So the purple are low volume areas where you'd expect decisions to be made, and the gray in the middle here is where all the volume was. That should be the fulcrum if this is expanding negotiation, because we've already made a lower high and a lower low inside of the consolidation. So what would you expect to happen next? Well, we'd have to come back and test these individual low volume areas, and see if we have buyers waiting there. Because if we don't, then we're gonna have to renegotiate this high volume area. The high volume area is gonna get choppy, and it's going to travel through it pretty easily. So we really don't want to be getting long at 11,000. That's like the worst place to get long. We either want to wait and see what happens under 11,000 and then potentially get it after it comes back up and breaks through here. But the problem is there's a low volume node right above it. See that? Big volume area, low volume node, low volume node, excess. So really, if we get back through 1100, chances are it's going to have trouble in these three areas. What's better would be to bounce off this low volume area now and at least do some work up here before we come back so that we can bounce off 11,000. That's what I would like to see. Otherwise, what may be more likely, at least more normal, I don't know if it's more likely, but it's more normal, is since they've already taken the liquidity that was up here, if they're done up there, it means this low volume node will probably hold. So we're chopping around in this area. When they take this one, they'll take 1100, and then on the way up, they'll break back up there, but get stuck in this zone and roll over. And then your target's here. So that's the level-wise, that's kind of the map. And so then you have to ask, well, where should I be taking trades? Well, you want to avoid taking trades in the high volume area unless we've left the area and returned to it. Then it's cool because we know it's bullish already, right? Or if it comes down here and it comes back and it rejects there, that's fine. But when we're negotiating it, stay away from the midpoint. For the same reason why you'd want to get long here maybe, but not here, even if it was a signal. And why this one doesn't really turn into anything, why it gets stuck at the low volume node and then rolls over, is because of the location. And so I had mentioned that I thought this was too risky, but I didn't explain that. So hopefully that's helpful. That when it was coming back, I said it's technically an area where they need to hold, but I didn't think that it was I said it was too aggressive coming after this. These guys got trapped up here with capitulation. I said it was too dangerous for me to buy due to the location. And if you remember, what I should have done is drawn the volume profile, saw that the volume for the wave up was at the lows, and I if I remember correctly, I said that looks pretty bullish, but we could retrace all the way back to this, and it's still bullish. So wait for this big area to get figured out. And then they did exactly that, building volume. In here, see that? They built up all this volume. ICAT. And now, where there was a low volume node, there's just an even distribution of volume in there. So this whole area is all fair value, meaning you don't really want to take a stand in there. This one's shifting slightly down. And honestly, I'll go select there. So that's what that looks like. So in other words, there's not a lot to do, and we should notice that the price action and the what's it called? The pace has changed dramatically. So let's go back to the 24 now. The price action has changed dramatically, where all we were doing was going up and then pulling back and going up and pulling back, and we were not really retracing at all. And we got one nice retrace, getting underneath the channels. And now notice that we've gotten stuck in here. And if you look at the zigzag, what you'll see, this is the first time we're actually heading lower on with bigger waves going down than waves going up. And look at how long we're spending on them. 8 minutes, 10 minutes, right? The up waves were going in like 4 minutes for 54. Right? Now it's taking us 10 minutes to get 27. That's a big change in character. It's a little hard to like quantify exactly, but if you can see it, like, and I can use my discretion there to kind of say, okay, do I want to continue to just like buy longs aggressively? And the answer is no. I don't want to be just buying every triangle, buying every star, and buying every green bar anymore. So I hope that makes sense. So because of that, I'm going to take a step away, and I'll be right back. There's no reason to trade in this zone. Unless you're going to sell this and buy this. This is just going to chop around in here, which is fine. Like I said, I've already done my work for the day. If we don't have a single setup from here on, I'm totally cool. But I'm happy to watch it and answer people's questions, and we can look at ES and all that stuff. So let me pull this back up. I'll be right back, guys. Here, I'll leave you with some. I'll put my SoundCloud on. You guys can enjoy the enjoy this. Okay, be right back. music on my streams, you can find me on SoundCloud. Just look up Redben. Unless it sounds professionally done, then it's probably just from Spotify. In which case, those videos generally get taken down. But if you want your video to get taken down quickly, the best way to do it is just to add some Disney music or something you know that has like copyright, and those algos, the YouTube algos, will pull it down pretty quick. So. Yeah, if you want to turn your YouTube live stream into more of like a Snapchat where things only stay around for a little while, that's the way to do it. All right. So you can see how, like, if you didn't identify that this is no longer bullish, you could make the mistake of buying this and get pretty ripped up, right? It's really important, you guys, that you start before you decide what you're going to do, not just once a day, but like before you like have a plan for what's going on, and then every time the market shifts in price action or pace or whatever, you need to back out and decide, do I even want to be trading in this area? And is there momentum? Is the direction determined already? Yeah. Yeah, you got to figure that out, because that's going to help you decide whether or not you want to take the aggressive trades or if you want to wait for a trap trade. Like, this is technically a trap long, a trap trade to the long side if it closes here, but I'm not going to take it, because even though there's a low volume node here, right? There's also a low volume node right here. So the risk reward is poor, although the location is good. They're probably just chopping around in this area. One of these could lift off. Like, I'm not saying it can't work. It's technically valid, and if you were dying for a long, you could take it. But based on the analysis I did on the 80 tick and looking at the candle chart, I'm not dying to take a trade. I don't see it as like I have to get in here because it's still going up. It's only halfway done, you know. Yeah. Jamie Dimon says, I doubt there will be a soft landing. It's a polite way to say we're totally screwed. Supposedly, Russia foiled an attack on the Turk Stream pipeline, and saboteurs were arrested. Diamond says his gut tells him the Fed rate will be higher than 4.5%. Awesome. Oh, that's great. So yeah, this kind of like grindy price action is really dangerous, but thankfully we know when it happens. It happens when we get stuck between areas, when we're renegotiating price between areas of like low volume, and then also during periods where like we're waiting for information, like pre-CPI, you'll see this. And you have to be really careful because if you think about it, if you train yourself just to take every purple bar followed by a star, like you'd get a trade here, but then this one would fail and this one would fail. And so you'd end up being net negative if you trade aggressively. And even if you took only the trap trades, like whenever they got under a low and then came back, that one would fail. Now, the other thing to think about though is how are the shorts doing, right? Like there's this trade up here with the arrow followed by the red outline, and then there's the star, that one worked, right? And then the next entry, it would be if that got taken out, which it didn't. And then you had a star here that worked. You had the orange bar that worked. Actually, that's a really good entry. I don't know how that one's pretty good. I don't know how I missed that. That would have been okay to take. This one's okay to take. So the shorts are all working. And even the stars got traps back in. So when the shorts start working and none of the longs are working, and especially if it's kind of grindy like that, you have to take notice, right? The easier thing to do is just not to trade in this. But if you had to identify earlier on that these aggressive bullish trades just weren't really doing anything. This one did work, so that might have been a little confusing. But then when you get a star that they can't take out, and it's printed immediately by another orange bar, and then that can't get taken out, that's resistance. So why enter right under resistance, right? Especially when shorts are working and longs no longer are. So you just kind of have to be aware of that, even if you're not taking the trade. So here's another purple bar followed by a star. It might work, but longs haven't been working all of a sudden. So it also makes sense to skip it. And plus, we're well into the low volume node now, so you could come up here and actually reject off of the high volume area. All right. So we shall see what happens. Looks like that long is getting back into the middle of the high volume area. That should make sense. It doesn't mean it's going back to the highs, right? Because these guys all got potentially trapped. So it could easily just come back up, bounce off. See, now they can't get a bullish VPOC to get above the midpoint, although that might change. But all through here, all of these VPOCs that got above the midpoint, this gray line, they were all bearish bars. This one, and all the bullish bars had their VPOCs at or below it. And then we came up, tapped it, turned bearish, tapped it, probably turned bearish. That's not bullish price action. So we'll see. Oh, they got it. They got the VPOC above the midpoint. Let's see if that's a breaking out point. Let's see. Doesn't have to be, but it could be. There's just not a lot to do right here. We're sitting right at that high volume area. Like, you don't really want to take trades here, but we can watch. Notice that the VPOC line here, the 2-hour VPOC line, is dropping and price is dropping. Like, it's already it returned to it here, and now price came back to it and rejected off of it. So that makes this much better of a short, like this one too. It returned into the VPOC and then rejected out of it. Returned into the VPOC, rejected out of it. Returned into the VPOC, does it reject out of it? I don't know, right? It not with a purple bar. I'm not taking that. The purple bar suggests the buyer's just giving up here, so it's probably just going to chop around. But we'll see. We shall see. Chop, chop, chop. Nothing to do. But look at how slow it's gotten all of a sudden. Huge, huge, huge change in character. Like, you just have to be aware of that and know what to do when that happens. And for me, when that happens, I don't do anything. Or maybe I, start looking for like reviewing other markets, or reviewing the day, or answer emails, or right, like, there's just nothing to do here. And the important thing is to know that. Let's see if ES has a similar situation. So we can see price went up without volume. It returns to establish volume. It does. And then rejects. This one is your best long, but it's not great. But it's your best one, because the volume here we established some above, came back into it. Now the problem is your target is back at the volume point of control, so it's just not a very good risk reward. But if you want to know where it's likely to bounce, it's there. It's just not going to get through that high volume area. Then you could technically short this on any of these orange bars, because it came back to the volume point of control and rejected. So this star, this orange bar, this orange bar, and this orange bar are all technically sells, like valid for sells. It's just you have to have like, you have to believe that it's possible that we roll back through all of like at least through this. And yeah, I don't know if I am. And you can see that like if you got short here, like you didn't get stopped out, but like you had to hold for a long time as it, and look at how like slow and grindy this is. That'd be enough to make me decide like, you know what, I don't want anything to do with it, I'm just gonna get out. And but then they do give you an opportunity to get back in. So maybe this is a short, but I'm pretty sure it's just too grindy. I'm not used to ES price action, but my guess is that this is abnormal for a trend change, and that usually it just means sideways. But I could be wrong. Definitely that's what it says on NQ. Is that sideways to higher should be just assumed, but you don't know until it does it. But it is technically a valid short. So if you were dying to short all day, these are your opportunities here. I don't really know what the, and then here it's this one and this one. But you can see the difference between, like, you can't just take every orange bar and short it, because when momentum is like screaming higher, it's not a good idea. Like sometimes this works, but I said before it was way too aggressive because of this. The pitch of this is just too steep. And you'd think that would make the rollover more likely, but the way the market works is it gives you the signal and then it rips you apart and then it'll roll over later. Once it gets everybody to short this and takes them out, then it can finally go lower than that. I know it's mean, but this is the way it works. It's like, think about the way that most people lose money. That's probably what the market's going to do. And so right now, everybody was shorting all day long, right? They were short, trying to fight this, short, and then capitulation, signaled by this arrow. Now finally it starts to pull back and people are like, oh nice, I can finally buy it again. Long, stopped out. Long, stopped out, right? That and then as soon as it looks like the other direction is good, then it's gonna flip again. And it'll like, oh, there's another orange bar, so let's see if this one pays out. It's not positioned very well. It's got the VPOC way down here, even though it's not super bearish. So if it works, it has to work right away. But if it does work, that suggests there's momentum. I don't think it will, but I have seen it work before. Looks like it's going to work. So maybe there is some momentum. So see how the purple background starts to come in because they're shifting momentum lower, just like they did here. And actually, now that I look at this, if you think about this very first spots where it, so when the purple starts here, they break over it. So it looks like it's going to go higher, but then they get another purple bar and then they reject out of that. This zone here becomes resistance. See that? Where the wick of that first purple background bar is, becomes resistance, resistance, resistance. You get another purple background bar, can't break above that. Then they get another purple background bar down here. Do it right. This one is the very first of this purple background. This is where it starts, so that's the momentum shift. That's an up bar, which is kind of weird. But they can't get volume above that without being a bearish bar. So that's resistance, and this setup did come right from that. Right, well now we've got another one. So are they going to repeat that process? you sort of assume they will until they stop doing it. I didn't think that this would work, but it was valid. It was just very aggressive because the problem is, if you look where the VPOC is, you want the VPOC as close to the top for your cells as you can because it means that you have a chance to go a lot lower. And so here, even this one, it's beyond the midpoint, and that's basically what ends up causing all this bounce, 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 bounce. And then this one too, it's beyond the midpoint. So once you get a move to the downside, they retrace back and test it, but there's still sellers there, so they get another move. So here, what I would expect with the VPOC so far down is test, bounce, rollover, but instead they just got rug pulled. So I don't know what that means. Maybe there was news, or maybe it's just because there was not a lot of negotiation all the way back on the way up here. This was basically like single prints. So it might have just been location based, but I would not have. I didn't personally expect the low volume node to get ripped through so fast. Like I said, it doesn't mean it won't happen just because you don't expect it to. But I was not going to take a short at the top of the low volume node with the understanding that the bottom of the low volume node might actually hold. So you would have had to think that it's going to do exactly precisely this to get short there, and I didn't think it was. But it was valid, and if you were aggressive and you saw the opportunity, nothing wrong with that. Let's see. Oh, I guess the January 6th thing is going on. White House and Secret Service witnesses previously testified that they had received no intelligence about violence that could potentially threaten any of their protectees. Evidence strongly suggests that this testimony is not credible. Oh. So the Secret Service had information that was going to happen? Biden speaking. Okay, so it could be anything. Speaker Pelosi has news. Is she trading? We should probably follow Pelosi. Bank. JP Morgan still sitting on $1.2 trillion of cash. 1.2 trillion. With a T. Looking for more news. Okay, so we got back into this volume area and then bounce. So that would be an aggressive long. If you've been waiting, see how they got. I wasn't watching. I was looking at another screen. See how we got the capitulation sign, a blue arrow on a down bar? It suggests the next buy signal could be worth taking if you want to be aggressive. And if you were short, you'd want to be out of your short here. Sorry, I was just not paying attention. Too many screens. I was looking for news because this was just a weird move. But this was a sign of capitulation coming. And you can see that what usually happens is the purple background goes away and we go lower. Maybe only a bar or two, but we generally continue to go lower, and then once that discontinues, this low is generally pretty good. So now you could draw. That should be a power bar. It should get a flag in a second. If you watch, oops. And so if that pivot is a fractal or a power bar, then it's good. Someone in the room was just posting about the fact that they've got lower and lower volume, even though we're going lower in price. That is usually not bearish. But it also generally means that you're going to get an expansion in range because these repeated what's it called? Divergent volume waves suggest that you got trapped traders. So now if it continues lower and puts in high volume here, then that doesn't count. But if they can hold this low, it basically suggests that this high is probably going to get taken out. So we'll see. That'd be pretty cool. Again, this level is from the 80 tick. And this is where all the volume was on this way up. And so I said that this is an area where you really don't want to be doing a lot of trading here. But if you think it's still bullish, bouncing out of here is exactly what you want. This is that 1100 area, 11,000. And I said 11,000, you'd only really want to be trading it if you got out of the area, came back to it, like bounced off of it or rejected out of it, and then continued. So really, we don't, in my opinion, unless you think it's going a lot higher by the end of the day, which is possible. Sometimes trend days just go on and on and on and on. You'd have to think that this low is going to hold, and that they're not going to test 11,000 again. That'd be the only reason you'd buy this. Otherwise, what I think will happen is we actually do trade underneath it, and then they make a decision after leaving that area to come back and bounce from one side to another. So personally, I'm not taking that, but if I was short, I would be out. I hope that makes sense. Like, just because I don't want to be in a bearish trade here doesn't mean I want to be long. But yeah, usually this arrow on a down bar, it doesn't necessarily mean it's never going to go lower, but it usually means that there's some sort of a bounce coming. That bounce can be short-lived though. Buyers actually have to get all the way up here above the last momentum shift for this to be plausible for a bounce on the 24 tick. On the 80 tick, where's the volume? It's way up here is where the purple is. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's not a purple background, that's my drawing. It's right here. Oh good, it's right here. So we got over it already. Maybe this bounce does work. On the 80 tick, it suggests that we've already established volume above the point where momentum shifted down, which it apparently says was around 11 o'clock central. So at noon, when we pulled down underneath 11,000, it's saying that that was the momentum shift, and then we then moved higher, and now we're returning to test that same area. Maybe this is a long, you guys. I might have been reading that wrong earlier. We've technically already traded below it and bounced. So returning to it and bouncing off of it, that's actually pretty bullish. I might actually be wrong not taking that long. Wow, I figured that out like moments too late. But I actually think that long might be good. Shit. Yeah, that long might be good. Just because on the higher time frame, it's that's a bullish pullback on a higher time frame. Right back into volume. Although the problem is your target has to be here. I guess that's not a problem. You target back. Ugh, come on, give me this. I don't know. Oh my god. Serial chart's so not user friendly. Okay. So we'll see, but the more I look at that, I actually kind of like buying the green for a scalp back up to the top of the channel. I think it actually works. Like, if everybody expects 11,000 to get tested, it won't get tested, right? Man, I was just moments too late on identifying that. Just a little too slow. Like, I knew what I wanted to see, and I wanted to see it on this time frame, but technically we had already seen it on the higher time frame, and I just didn't figure it out in time. That was close. It was like right here. I technically could have taken it. I'd already have been taking profits right here. So that trade is done. Let me take another break, you guys. I'll be right back. A little irritated, but let me just take a couple deep breaths. I'll be right back. All right. So what I'm thinking here, whenever in my experience, whenever I make like a, whether it's like an error in judgment or I decide something's too aggressive when it's not, or too conservative when it's too aggressive, or whatever, like if it's not just about results, but when you think one thing and you think you have good reason for it, but then you realize that like something else is actually the reality, and what you were thinking was not quite correct. Like there was some sort of error in like logic. And like I said, in this case, the error I made is not considering the higher time frame. And so whenever that happens, what I like to do is to look and see if there is a pattern that I can learn from in that sequence, and see if I might be able to identify it in the future, so that I can be alerted to the fact that that same exact situation might be coming up. And so even though I missed this one, next time I might be able to catch it, right? So which signals to pay attention to, though, is the challenge because there are a lot of choices and conditions are always just a little bit different. But an example would be, I mentioned that I thought that this short was a little bit too aggressive because the volume point of control was dropping so fast, and it was so close. It was closer to this channel side than the midpoint, and that's usually a sign that you're going to get some kind of bounce before you can roll down. Well, and then if you look at where VPOC was, it's actually above this entire structure. The 2-hour VPOC, developing point of control, I should say. DVPOC was up here on top of the structure, and so we were moving with momentum to the downside, and so this move, not surprisingly, gets capitulation at the end, right? So all of that makes sense. You might not know that right here, but you certainly know it here. And then the question is when you have that situation where you have VPOC or developing VPOC kind of left behind, and then the VPOC line just like screaming lower. Come here, cat. And hi, come on. And yeah, the question is can you anticipate that the next move higher might be significant? Or in other words, that the guys that put their stop up here are probably going to get tested. And I don't know how many of those criteria need to be there, but as a comparison, you can see just a little bit before we had VPOC screaming down with an orange bar. The developing point of control is lagging the structure. See that? It's behind it, right? And then we get a little bit of capitulation. And where do they go back to? To test that bar they find. And VPOC, right where VPOC was. They develop volume lower, and the same thing happens. So you'd expect this to develop lower if we were going to get another one of those. And so when that doesn't happen, you've got to think that we're going to go higher now. But I might have to look for situations on both sides where this exact scenario occurs, where you have an orange bar with the close below the developing VPOC and the point of control in the body of the bar down here, and to see if that bar is likely to get tested again, because that might mean that this is a short. Of course, you'd have to know then why not to take this. And so there's something different about this move compared to this move. And the one thing I see is that the blue arrow was earlier here. It was on the down rather than on the up. Like the result is the same, but the fact that we got that momentum early and we kept going down even though there's actually buyers supporting that level, I think gives it better chance to break through this structure. But like this one, for instance, volume dropping, close is below the developing point of control line here. The VPOC is right in the middle, but technically in the body. What happens? We get a move down to the other side of the channel, and we return and we test into the VPOC, which is here, and it does it again. Test down, comes back, tests the VPOC, and so therefore, is that a short? See, hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm just looking for that pattern of dropping volume, yellow line, bar VPOC, dropping through 2-hour developing VPOC. Specifically on an orange bar, when you have that VPOC positioned not up here at the top of the channel where it belongs, but down here where it would only continue if you have momentum. Because a lot of times I see this chop, 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 and I don't want to trade it because I don't want to get stopped out. and then the trend just continues. And so it's like, it's an okay place to trade if you have a higher time frame, right? But the timing has to be right. And perhaps the way to get the timing right is using that developing VPOC and to see that once you've broken through it with volume, now test back into it, maybe shortable, specifically maybe after you get, wouldn't be after a blue, could it just be after a blue arrow? That seems awfully simple. Could it be when I did mention that they're failing to get a VPOC above that midpoint, that gray line, on a bullish bar. The only one is a bearish bar. So down, they try, they can't hold it. So this is your short, or this, or this, as long as you're continuing to close below the developing point of control, and none of these bar VPOCs got above the midpoint. Didn't on the bull bars. Didn't, just barely. Didn't. So the bar before is bullish. The VPOC is not above the developing point of control. And the very next bar has is below, closing and VPOC below. I guess you don't have to have the VPOC below, but definitely closing below the developing VPOC line. So that would be this one. No, this one would not qualify because you have a bar with VPOC above the midpoint. Interesting. This one would qualify. This one would not. But this one's like perfect. So why, what am I, so I must have something slightly wrong there. It's getting the VPOC above the midpoint of the channel is not enough to immediately turn the market, but it's usually enough to resolve higher. So this simply means that this is your last short. Hold on, that actually might make sense. So we get a VPOC on a bullish bar above the midpoint. The very next short is still valid, but it's the last one. Confirmed by the blue arrow. Now it's bullish. You don't take that short. Okay, I'm gonna have to like dig into that a little bit. That might be correct. And so in this case, going back the other way, we need a situation where price is going beyond the VPOC like this, just like we are now, and we see us go back into it, just like it did here, and then close back above it, and fail to get, preferably failing to get any bearish POCs in the bar beyond this gray line. If it does get a POC bar on the gray line, the next up move should be the last one. I'm gonna do a review of that after we close and see if I can find situations like that. If it does work, I will even show you how to build the signal for it, if you'd like. Pretty sure I can. VPOC is public, more or less. But we're only going to do it if it actually works repeatedly. Otherwise, it's not worth doing it. So let's see if we can get a pullback that goes through this VPOC line and then they retake it, but bears are unable to put. Really, what this is interesting. Something. Whoops, keep doing that. Something to watch then is where is the VPOC line relative to that channel midpoint. Because when the VPOC line is above the channel midpoint like this, it makes these moves more impulsive, but also harder to continue lower. Whereas when the VPOC is below the midpoint like this, you can get a move, a retrace, another move, a retrace, another move. So here it would be the exact opposite, where when you're under it, getting a close and a retrace and a run would be harder. It would require more energy. then if you could get, right, wait, am I doing that wrong? Above, it's okay, it's flipped, so on the way down, see this one, we've got developing VPOC above the midpoint. We test it, we reject. Closing below the midpoint and that. And then any move up fails to put a VPOC above the midpoint. So any close beyond the midpoint should be a short. So that's a short. It returns through the midpoint to the developing point of control. It would have to do this. Then if it does that, any signal higher should be taken. And it did it right here. Okay, I'm gonna watch for that, and then we're gonna review it. And if it works, I'm gonna have a signal made for it, so that I don't have to worry about it. It'll just tell me automatically when it happens. We'll figure out a way. But I believe that's it. I think if you watch the midpoint line, the gray line, right? As long as it's below the VPOC, then coming back to test that and closing back above the VPOC line is bullish, but hard to continue the move. Once you've got midpoint above VPOC, it's harder to get back to VPOC. But if it does, it can go higher and higher and higher and higher. So, but although here it didn't. This seemed like an awfully easy move. I guess it's just because it was so bullish before. So, on our bigger picture here, where did my NQ chart go? NQ, where are you? Where did it go? Oh, it's right here. Too many screens. So now we're already backing into the high where we have that excess, but it's a pretty poor high though. There's not a lot of excess. But on the smaller time frame, you could see that there was just weak buying at the top. Usually when it's that small, here I'll show you this. When it's this, I know it looks big here, but on the 80 tickets, it's small. Right? When it's that small, usually it responds and then you get a retest and then it rips. Does that same play work here? Midpoint, get under it, test midpoint, can't get VPOC below midpoint, break above developing volume and point of control, go. Come back, midpoint stays above. This is not as good, harder to continue higher because you've got midpoint now getting overtaken. See, this midpoint stays below it. So this is easier to do. You get the impulse moves from that, but it's harder to continue. Whereas this with VPOC, with VPOC above the midpoint, it's hard to get it started, but it should have the potential to continue higher if it does do it, but it doesn't. It falls through it. And then you've got the opposite situation. So if they reject here and roll it through VPOC, that's bearish. But in this case, we came back, we tested midpoint after breaking through VPOC, and it goes. So that's the buy. Now you've got developing VPOC above the midpoint. Okay. So we come back. What did it do? It tested the midpoint and couldn't close below, and then came back through VPOC. Tested the midpoint, couldn't close below, comes back through VPOC. That's your buy. That is cool, and it's relatively straightforward. A little complex because there's two different situations, two different scenarios, but it should work on multiple time frames. Gets under it, comes back to VPOC, and POC and midpoint and rejects, and we get a big move because they're so close together. So when they're close together, the move is more impulsive. Close together, test, reject, impulsive move. Close together, test VPOC, reject. Oh, but now it's now the VPOC's in our way and the midpoint's above it. So you need to do another one. Impulse move. Impulse move. Then this one's hard to catch unless you have the indicator showing that it's capitulation. But it gets over the midpoint, and then any back test of the midpoint that breaks above the developing VPOC, impulse move. You guys, that's really neat. Really neat. I can't wait to code that. Okay, so I mean, it's unfortunate that we didn't catch this because I seriously could have bought this, or apparently this, or apparently this is okay too. Like this would get a signal and this would get a signal. No, sorry, this would definitely get a signal. This would be it right here. Would get the signal. So now the tricky part is to get a short with that setup. We need to develop volume higher, come back under, get under the midpoint, come back up, fail to get any buyers over the midpoint, and then reject off VPOC. It's not going to go in both directions when it's trending. It's only going to work with the trend. And so the colors that are in the background is the direction you're going to be looking. It'll be shorts during this period and longs during this period. Okay, that's cool. How much time do we have? An hour. All right. So last hour, we see how easily we traded through this excess right up to the top. So when that happens, when you just see like this is probably a sign that we got that like shorts are really hurting right now. Like it's like emergency situation if you're short when they break through that excess with no problem. But the funny thing is that I don't think we actually made a new high. Oh yes, we did. Wow, they're so technically that is excess now right at the top. Now see how volume is shifting up? That's their opportunity. Bears opportunity. So all of the wow, Matt was right about these 3 down leading to an up wave. Wow. Good call, Matt. Thank you. In the room. Okay, so VPOC is here. So we can do the same analysis with the low volume nodes. So here's the excess. This is all filled in now. There's a low volume node here. Technically, VPOC is down here. And at the high is where all this volume is, so. Let's see what they can do with that. This is the first point where momentum shifted. So buyers really they don't want them to get the VPOC below that on a bearish bar. They're going to try to hold it here most likely. So now we're in that situation where the midpoint is below the developing VPOC. So testing it and bouncing it, as long as we close above the VPOC, which is right here, should be buyable. It's just so high that you're like basically buying a breakout. That's the problem. is like, you feel like an asshole when it doesn't work. Oh shit.
Order
I
canceled.
accidentally entered an order. I didn't get filled, but clicked the wrong part. Didn't mean to. I was just trying to click onto the DOM and put a limit order in. I definitely don't want to sell this. So like, on an absolute basis, it feels very high to be looking for a buy, but relative to the current moves, like, it makes sense that they just scream another leg higher, unfortunately. I'd much prefer they don't, but if they tried, you'd be forgiven for taking that first signal, because it did come back and test the midpoint and then close back over the VPOC. So when you're wrong, this turns into chop. But there's really nothing here that indicates that shorts have taken any initiative. So it's pretty hard to not buy it if it signals. The only problem is we've got this huge area of unauctioned prices that can get retraced. But we have a stop loss for that. Like, if it gets stopped out, then we know it's going to go a lot lower. So it's like, that shouldn't really bother me that much. Like, the only reason not to buy this is because you're going to look stupid when you stop out. That's the reason not to buy it. But will you usually get 10 points if it triggers? Yeah, usually you will. It just feels crazy stupid when it doesn't work. But I have no reason to think it won't, because bulls have all the energy. They have all the momentum. And we're continuing to bounce off that midpoint and break through the VPOC. So if it doesn't work, well, then I've got more evidence for figuring out what to filter out. Now, if it doesn't trigger, that's great. That's what I'd much prefer, is it just doesn't trigger green, or there's no star here, no green, no star, then it's no trade. If anything, it looks like they're going to do star to the downside, which is interesting. The problem really is that all the volume's at the top of this bar, so your target is just back up to here. So it might be a risk-reward problem. But like, chances are price is going back to that high. So do with that what you will. The question is how low can you get it? Do you buy it right here? Do you wait for them to roll over and trap and come try again? This low volume node is probably going to access support, so they might want to come down a little lower. I don't hate waiting, but after missing a move like that, I definitely feel FOMO, you know? Yeah, these speed drops getting beat seems to be, and stars getting beat all above the channel. Well, it seems to be relevant. Oh, and this one, same thing. Tested the midpoint, broke over the VPOC, gone. So when it's bullish, that seems to work repeatedly. It's still bullish.
Order filled.
Oh, did I? Okay. Now, it's got a volume anomaly, right? So chances are this low will get hit. We just don't know if it's gonna be right away or not. So I'm gonna be aggressive with this exit and just take the quick exit here, because technically I'm not supposed to be buying those. But you know, you don't have to. I just took like a couple points because I knew it was going to be green, but I wasn't sure how much of a volume anomaly it was. And in this case, it looks like the anomaly is it's got a huge volume bar compared to the last few. It doesn't mean it can't go higher, but it usually means that that low is going to get tested. Now, I might have been wrong there and it just runs. But looks like I am potentially wrong. So here's, I guess, where the target would be, is back into that high volume node. But they're probably going to chop between these two areas here. I can get rid of this one now. What I really want is for them to close a little bit higher here. I don't know if taking that risk of that going down is really worth it if I'm going to take profit so quick. Now that I think about it, I probably shouldn't have taken the trade at all. Well, I guess I was just bailing on it because I had the diamond, but maybe when it's this bullish. Did we have another one that was like that? See, this one did exactly what you'd expect. This one did exactly what I'd expect. Thought I remembered this one. Blue diamond gets retraced but doesn't get beaten. So it looks like there are situations where it's okay to buy it. Probably just needs enough momentum. Oh, you know what? Where was the midpoint? Hold on. On that one. Was the midpoint down in the bottom channel? Way down here. Look where the midpoint is. Way down here. So it looks like when the midpoint's down here, you can be a little bit more aggressive even though there's volume on those. Here. Oh, that's a second one. That's okay. So this one got traded through by one tick. I took this trade and got stopped out and then re-entered. That's right. This one. Oh, this one, the midpoint's way at the top of the channel. And they try to retrace it and can't. They can't get under it. So it may just be that it's likely to get retraced, but just sometimes it doesn't. Like this one doesn't get retraced. So what's up with that? Like what's different about this scenario compared to this scenario? Although this one, they just tightened it up. What is different there? Pink bar, orange bar, purple bar, no green bar. Purple bar, no green bar. That still goes. Purple bar, green bar with a diamond. They just can't break it under. I think normally those do still get traded behind. We're just so bullish that it's not happening. But look, pink can't get traded behind. Bearish. Blue gets traded behind. Not bullish. Blue can't get traded behind. Bullish. Fuck, I should have held that. Jesus. It's so hard to buy high. I'm telling you guys. It's so tough. But once again, that signal worked. Where you test the midpoint of the TNP channel and then break through the developing VPOC with momentum, you get an impulse move. Like, that could be money if that works repeatedly. It appears that during, at least with the trend, it does. So we're going to go back and see if that's the case most of the time. Wave to the high. Looks healthy, you guys. Oh, wow. Looks really healthy. They do need to hold that, though. So establish volume above. This could become a pivot. Yeah, that's going to be a pivot. Okay, so they need to hold this. Buyers need to hold above this. See how I got the yellow arrow? Especially on a purple bar that followed a pink bar. Wherever we go, if we go higher, it can be a pivot for a long. If it goes lower, it can be a pivot for a short. We're above the developing VPOC. Look where the midpoint line is for the TNP channel. It's way down here. So you could literally test VPOC and bounce and not even approach the midpoint of the channel. In other words, we're way outside the channel on TNP. See that? Way outside the channel. That's unnatural, but okay. Just not normal. But the fact that the VPOC is still holding above that midpoint, despite the fact that we're so far away from it, like, you need a lot of energy to keep that up. We are approaching that target. I did not think that we were going to test in here today. I said it. I said, that would be like a 4 or 5% move, and that'd be pretty crazy. It appears we're going to do it. And once again, I sold my calls too early. But it's all good. U.S. Supreme Court rejects Trump bid to restore special master's access to classified documents. Oh boy. Hmm. %3 up on the day after starting the day down more than 1%. Pretty exciting. I've got some TNA, which is 3x Russell in the core count. How's that doing? Nice. It's doing good. Bought at 30, currently 32. So that's like a 15-point move. 15%, is that right? Yeah, that's good. Cool. Should have bought more. At this point, you guys, like pullbacks should probably be bought. Like on a red day, it's probably time to think about buying these lows, because we're still in that here, I'll show you. If you like the Russell, and I do because it's got banks and a lot of energy, but if you like the Russell, sorry for all the lines on the big chart, it's kind of hard to read, but you can see that these lows, they came down, they tapped the voodoo range perfectly, and then got a huge bounce off of it today. So it made sense that this looked like the stronger of them, of the indexes. We had really strong resistance up here, so it's very possible that we're just creating a range that's going to trade in for a while. That's certainly possible. But what tends to happen here is you get these like fulcrum shifts. See, here we were orbiting around a level inside here. It was a different week, so the voodoo range was different, but it was like somewhere like this. And then we were orbiting around this level up here. Well, now we've shifted down to orbiting around this level, right? So every week we're going to orbit a different level. Well, now what appears to me is happening is the fulcrum is shifting back up. So there's a good chance that we're returning to 763, which is my primary target. And then if we can still find buyers, it could actually go significantly higher. So it's important to identify those shifts whenever you like, because remember, balance days might look like no fun for trend traders on the intraday chart, but on the bigger chart, you need to look at where we are balancing. And in fact, that actually might have some, that actually might be meaningful for this trade I was talking about, is where are we balancing relative to where VPOC has been. There might be a hint to whether or not the trade is likely to work and where you want to get long based on wherever the the balance period was. That's something I hadn't actually thought about. If it works on the higher time frame, it probably works a little bit on the lower time frame, maybe just not as often. But generally that's the rule, is that you can do the same thing, it's just you're going to have a lot of times where it doesn't work. But if you know what it looks like on the higher time frame, those same concepts should exist on the lower time frame, so you could at least identify it. It might not have as good of a win-loss ratio, but it's probably still valid. Even though I had a pretty good day today, I feel like I didn't do as well as I could have because I had so many missed opportunities. Where like literally 2 times where I was in the trade and decided that it was too aggressive and exited for a small profit only to see it go 30 points again. Like I could have, had I just been a little bit more reckless and aggressive, I probably could have had 3 times the profits today. So on a day like this, if you're going to push it, this is the day to do it. Because things are working, right? Even though there's momentum, and it's like we're getting rotations. So it's working. Okay, so see how this pivot developed? We went to below it. If you're going to short, it's on a rejection of this pivot. The problem is at the midpoint of the TMP this channel, the midpoint's way down here, and we can't seem to get sellers below it. But if you wanted to short, you short if we reject up here. Yeah, look at that. That's where all the volume is. There we go. So there's our volume build. So if you reject that, potentially there's a short there. Sorry for the fighter jet. I live near Nellis Air Force Base. Not that close, but they're loud, so. And they fly all over the place up here. Anywhere in Vegas you hear it. Specifically North Las Vegas up here. But if people know where like Aliante Casino is, I'm kind of near that. And like they regularly fly. Like every day at noon. Sometimes they have red flag or red alert or whatever it's called where they fly at night too. And so you'll get woken up like thinking it's like an air raid. It's crazy. No siren or anything, but yeah. You got to get used to that jet sound. So remember, this red area was previous volume build that was left behind. And then we broke through it. So for bulls, they need to hold this. Bears developed volume below here, but they couldn't get below the midpoint of that TMP channel. They couldn't get into this lower area. You can see that the fib channel does a nice job of identifying where the support's probably going to be, but it doesn't give me that target for the downside. So that's why I will occasionally flip back to this one and see that if I wanted to short, that's really where I want to get to is 11,000, which makes sense.
Order filled.
Okay. Oh, fuck, that's got a volume.
Order filled.
Sorry. I didn't see the diamond. So the diamond makes it, unless it's really, really bearish, the diamond makes it more likely that it's going to back up here. I hope it doesn't do it again to me. If it just drops here, that's really frustrating. I got to figure that out. But usually when you got a diamond there, it's gonna come back in here before it rolls. I shorted it and then saw the diamond and was like, wait, it's pink bar star right at the right spot, but it's got a diamond. I wasn't sure if it's good enough. Fuck, it looks like it's gonna work. Well, shit. I guess it might be. That's frustrating, guys. Just trying to be more conservative. It was a valid entry. It just wasn't a super high odds entry. But I might be misinterpreting it in this situation. Because we had the pivot developed already, the high volume, I don't know. I don't want to overthink it. Generally, these result in pullbacks. You usually get another chance. And so rather than taking the aggressive one, I was going to take it when it comes back here, tests above it, and rolls over. See, now we've developed some volume below that midpoint line. See that? And so now we need to watch to see if the VPOC can be resistance, which is 1124.50, exactly at the voodoo range level. 1125 or so is what we want to see act as resistance, and then I will short it if we do it. Otherwise, we can retrace back into here and then roll over. That works too. But shit, that's like the 5th time that's worked. So there has to be some aspect I'm missing here. Because like I said, there are times where these diamonds do not produce immediate shifts. Man, that's frustrating. I'm just trying to be too conservative, not wanting to give away my big green day. And so I'm waiting for these really good trade entries, and I'm getting aggressive trade entries that are working, and then they don't set up the higher odds one. I mean, I guess that's the risk you take. But I had it all right. Pivot was there, we rejected it. I even hit the fucking button. But maybe it's okay for a scalp. I did take it earlier, and it got stopped out by a tick, which was frustrating. And then I kind of adjusted to that and figured I'd just wait for the second one, but we're not getting the second one now. And now the fact that we didn't get the second one, I believe, means that we are tilted to the downside and that buys should now be ignored. Volume is still behind the midpoint. So the volume needs to shift down. We might get a chop period here. Volume needs to shift down, and we need to then break down through it. Let's see. I might have just missed the top, you guys. It's possible. Super frustrating. So I have two things to look up. Rather than do a review of like bar by bar, because it would take forever since there was so much volatility. There's like millions of bars. The bar count has to be like 100 and some. I'm going to just look for those certain trades and then point out like what the turns look like so you can see what like typical trades worked. But I'm going to look for this new idea with using the developing point of control in the midpoint of the channel, and then research these diamonds a little bit and see if there may be a situation where it's okay to take it even when it does have a diamond. I know it's okay when it's at a established support or resistance, but usually you want a second diamond then. Like if it comes back up and it rolls over with another diamond, that's actually a very good play. Or like here where it's established support, if they come back in with another diamond, it's usually a pretty good buy. I don't know how long that stays the case, but I've seen that work. But there must be a condition here where you get continuation despite the fact that you have such volume in this move. Because you'd think the market would try to come back and retest it, but they just can't. So what that suggests is that we probably not only trapped people up here, but maybe had a point. Maybe it's because we got volume below. Nope, we didn't. We didn't get volume below the pink. That's not it. We did get volume below the excess. We also rejected the voodoo range level. Was the other one at a voodoo range level? That could be it. That might count as support or resistance. That would make sense. Oh, is it because we had a pivot here with an arrow? So many possibilities. It's possible that once you get the arrow, the diamonds are shorts when the test back into it. Shit, that makes sense. Okay, we will look at this. I'm excited to see if that works. Not going to buy this because we have now established volume below this, and we've established volume below the midpoint of the channel. So on the TMP chart, we've gotten down to the bottom of the channel. Now it doesn't mean it can't bounce back up to the top of the channel, but it means that the momentum that we had back here that was keeping us from doing that has dissipated for a while, or is at least resting. It doesn't mean it has to give it all back. But I would start to expect at least probably two-way trading. So you would think. But we did not reach that level. And that's weird. So we didn't get to that point, to the point of volume. Hold on. We didn't get to the point from the previous, like a previous time when we were here, if you weren't with us in the beginning of the stream, I established this based on a previous location where we negotiated this range. And that's where all the volume was. And so you'd think the high volume area would act as a magnet. And price should try to get up there. I didn't do it on ES. I could see what it looked like on ES. A little late for that. But on ES, we're actually rejecting out of a purple pivot, suggesting that volume or that momentum has. See, usually when there's momentum, we rip right through them and then we retest and then run. See, like this: retest, run. Now we got stuck in it, which means that momentum has died off. But look, we're trying to bounce off that Voodoo range level. It probably doesn't work. Notice on ES, you've gotten under the pink. Right here. And so rejections out of it are usually shortable. But I would want a sign of aggression. The only sign of aggression in both cases had a star. This one did not have a diamond. High. Oh, all the way to the bottom. Off the high. All the way at the bottom. Okay. So here's all the this is where the volume is. Oh, we finally got that volume shift. Fuck, did I... Wait. Is that why it worked? Because it retested volume and couldn't get VPOC above volume? That might be why the diamond worked. That might be it. Okay, rejected. This, so is this the same thing? Volume shifts down, we come back to the midpoint, reject, and close beyond volume. That might be a short. Man, I'm not confident that that works at a breakout level, but it might be a short. We're just so low now that I don't really want to do it. I wonder if we need a bull bar up here for that to work. We might need to go bull bar and then breakdown. And the fact that they're so close might mean that it's less likely to work. Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's just test the midpoint, break under VPOC, go. It seems like a weird place to short. If you did, your stop goes here. And you're targeting down here. Oh. So see how they're trying to take back that Voodoo range level? So here they bounced off the Voodoo range level and gave a diamond, and it worked here too. You can see this one really didn't go anywhere. In this case, it had an arrow on it. But there was clearly no support established on this one. And it still went. It did break through the VPOC though. This one did not. Break through VPOC. Now VPOC's way up here. Not technically a trap back in, I don't think. Let me check on my other one.
Is that technically a trap? No. No power bar until here. So it's just like a dip buy, but it's pretty dangerous because there's trap sellers or trap buyers up there. Maybe we are headed back to test this. Maybe I was just getting impatient. Generally, these arrows establish support if it's bullish. So if this breaks and doesn't immediately trap back in, oh, there's another purple. Shit, that happened fast. Look at that. Purple, purple, go. I just missed it. I wasn't hovering over my dom, but that is your second diamond, and it did it again. It couldn't get the bull above the midpoint. Rejected underneath VPOC again. Shit, that was it. Fucking A. Too damn slow. I was not ready for that. These both looked like breakdowns. It's very tricky. I'll have to practice this. Okay, so it's all at the bottom. There was not an entry there. That's what I was thinking about, is could this be an entry back to the top? Because I think it's going to go here, but that just rejects. And the entry is actually here. And they reject out of the volume. Man. It's a really, really cool setup. I'm just not practiced in it yet. Possible capitulation. They need a down bar here. But damn, that's tricky. It is getting late now. Should probably not be trading. But this clearly worked. I just, like I said, I got to figure out when I can take the diamond bars the first time. Maybe it's only when it's a star. Maybe it's only after a pink bar. Maybe it's only when it's positioned correctly. We're gonna look at it and see when they were, because these usually need another pullback, and in this case, like this one is at the established resistance. See that? The established resistance with the flag. The next one with volume usually does work. Here, I didn't think we had established resistance here yet, but maybe the arrow counts. And if it does, that opens up a lot of new trades, so we're going to look at it. And in this case, if it was arrow, well, and it might only be when it's with momentum. And that might be why I'm not noticing it, because it doesn't happen very often. It may only be when there's momentum in the market. Or when someone's trapped, like here. See, these blue arrows do nothing for you in counter trend. Nothing. If anything, you counter trade them by going arrow, pink bar, followed by, wait, did we get that here? Algo, pink bar, algo. I've seen that before with these diamonds. I wonder if that works with this diamond too. See, diamond, pink bar, diamond. Could that be why it works? Because it's got a pivot there. This one has high volume. That's what that means. Oh, that might be it. There was high volume at the bottom of that wave, and therefore they don't need another test. This is the test. High volume on this one. This is the test. That might be it. Okay, like I said, we're gonna dig in and see, because if that's the case, that's yet another good trade that I can add. Because, like I said, both of these looked good to me, but I've got rules that are keeping me from taking them. But I think I see why it's okay to be aggressive there. I think they work when this aggressive sign peters out in just 2 bars, because it's a sign that there's already momentum there. So what it looks like is white diamond inside, followed by a pink bar with a pink triangle, followed by a purple diamond, or a star, or an orange bar. It should only happen when there's momentum. And then the exact opposite will be found too. Oh, they got capitulation. Wow, I'm not paying attention. Okay, so capitulation down here. If I was short, I'd now be getting out of my short. And now any bounce, we have to watch to see if they can establish volume back above this. Otherwise, the momentum shift happened way up here. So for it to really be bullish, you need to trap a short or get all the way up this, up to here. And notice that's where the developing point of control is. Right, so getting a retrace here makes sense. Yep, see, that's why you exit those shorts when you get those capitulation signs. It's like potential pivot, right? I don't really want to buy this because the momentum's really strong, but again, arrow. If this was pink, if this was purple, I don't mind buying it as much, but I'm not going to do it. The target would just be to get back up here. It's a scalp, that's all, you know. But I don't know how often you actually break this. But I think arrow pink bar or arrow purple bar followed by algo might actually be a repeatable signal. I don't think it'll happen here because you don't have a purple bar. And there's also no triangle here, but it might work. I would definitely not want to be short now because you just don't know how this is going to go. Let them fail. Like, don't guess. Like, let them try to take it back and fail, and then just get back in. It is the last 20 minutes. Keep that in mind. Like, and it's been trending up basically, like the craziest trended up I've seen for the last like 6 hours. So don't be shocked if the shorts don't want to hold overnight. You know, like they could squeeze to the highs on nothing. We've seen it. And this was definitely capitulation, so. But it doesn't matter if they can't get over this. If they can't get over this low volume node, it doesn't matter. At the moment, everyone's aggressively buying this zone, so maybe it will. Watch this developing point of control line, see if it triggers down or adjusts down, and then see if they tag this and roll over. That's a short. Oh, was there a trap here? I didn't check on the point of control. No, there was not. There's really no target to the downside until down here. But there's some trap shorts at 1140. I expect this to go to 11,000. We should watch ES. ES did not get the capitulation sign. In fact, it got it. No, it did not. No blue arrows on the down. No capitulation sign on ES. It's probably going to roll over. Look how they rejected out of the midpoint, the low volume node, and volume point of control is not shifted yet. We haven't gotten a close, but a bearish close here would make me significantly more bearish. It's not really a trade setup, but it's what you'd expect. Oh, interesting. They got a blue arrow here. Usually you see those at support. So they're probably just going to trap it. You know what? This probably is a short when this closes. They're probably just setting them up. Yeah. They let them buy, and now they're going to squish them. That's what's happening. That's probably a short. I'm not going to do it because I don't have a setup. It's just an aggressive defense of this low volume node, but I bet you that's a short. This too, if it closes. An orange bar here would be wicked. Oh. Well, maybe that's why I don't have a setup. That looks like that. What if they trap back in? Is that a short? Probably. Okay, I need this volume to shift down. See, the volume is so high, it's acting as a magnet. Watch it just melt up for no reason. That would be really funny. Okay, it's not for no reason. They did get capitulation at NQ. But it was only 2 bars. Well, that's all it took up here, too. And it was over. Hey, at least I got my calls out. I'm happy about that sell. Thank you, Simon, for building the algo that can help me swing trade and scalp. Look at this. They're going to blow through that low volume node. Oh, this support's holding. Look, they couldn't close a bearish bar. It doesn't look bearish. Like, I want nothing more than to see like a 1% retrace, but I just doubt it's gonna happen. I think bears are realizing with 15 minutes left in the day that they really don't want to hold overnight. And so they're like, well, I don't want to be the last one to cover, so I'll just exit here. And they're going to rip right through this low volume node. Look at that. Okay, back almost to the center of the TMP. See, they're coming back to the center here. I don't know if they'll do it. They did. I'm using a slightly different channel. It's a little tighter. But I got the midpoint the same as the TMP midpoint because it's still relevant. Did they get the volume point of control above it? By a tick or 2. Technically, dip should get bought then. Hard to do, but technically dip should be bought. You really need this VPOC to shift down. Having them so far away from the channel is a problem. So what we want is dip, bounce. Let me see where the volume is now on this. Okay. We established volume above both of those. It's perfect. A dip and then a green bar or a star is absolutely a good long. We really want it to dip first, though. We don't want to buy up here. They might not give us the dip, right? Like, you don't know. Okay, clearly they've established volume above the midpoint. So dip, green bar, high a day. Give me that dip. Dip, 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 dip. I don't know if they're going to give it to me because it's just so late. I really want it back here, not here. Don't print a purple bar. Yes, that would suck. They're putting a pivot right on the voodoo range level. That fucking sucks. Okay, good. It's not purple. Yeah, let them aggressively short, and then we'll take it back. That's going to be an orange bar, it looks like. That's not what you want to see. One more than a green bar. That's best case scenario. Pink bar, orange bar is a short. So if it's bearish, it should just fall. But the problem is I needed a dip to buy. So I don't know if it's like I want it to come down here, but now if it comes down here, it confirms a short. So I don't really know what to do with that, other than to accept that you might miss the move or have to buy higher. A diamond here is death to bears. But oh my god, it's so shitty to take it. Like, it's just like, man, I don't want to do that. A green bar here is not good enough. It's too high. I can't take it. I'll get yelled at. I'll get a spanking if I buy this. It needs to come down. Wait. Where's the volume on ES? This might be a better play. Establish volume above, pull back, green bar, go higher. Come on. Do me a solid. Give me an ES trade. I don't care about NQ. Just do it on ES. Okay, we're approaching the VPOC right now. Oh, we've already crossed it on NQ. And this was the retest. That's probably a long. It's so high on the channel. It's really, really shitty. Fuck, that sucks. I just can't manage risk. My stop would have to go like down here under the. I want my stop under this triangle. So they need to pull this back and then do it again. I just hate that we crossed the VPOC and now we're rejecting. Like it's not setting up how I want it to. At this point, it's probably better off if it just screams higher and just leaves me behind, because this was the entry. And so for me to get set up, that entry needs to be taken out. So I'm gonna figure out how to I'll go on here for this, retest the midpoint, take the volume point of control, developing volume point of control. I do believe that's a pretty strong move with momentum. We're going to look for it in other days, and I don't think it'll work during balance, but I do believe that this is going to go higher now. I think that's a consistent setup that I need to have a signal for. It's just so high in the channel that I don't know if I've got very good risk reward, but I do believe that this results in higher prices more often than not. So let's see. They did print another one. That's good. Now let's see if they can pull back and give me a real entry. But look at how they set up short and just like ripped them to pieces. They can't get back to this volume build. See that? There's volume down here. And they can't get back to it. Not bearish. My trade is this, because it's conservative. And it works a lot. The aggressive trade is just buy this. But at the end of the day, do I really want to be, basically needing to get new high of day to make this a good trade? I don't know how confident I am that they actually take out the highs. They very well might, though. We've all seen it. We've all seen it happen. Yeah, see, now they can't get back underneath the midpoint. Here. Or are they going to take back the VPOC? See, I don't know once you get over the VPOC like this, what happens if you give it back? And then momentum's no longer on your side, right? So I'm pretty sure I can't take the long down here now. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm almost thinking if we do try to set up the long, now it's going to fail because they've actually already pushed volume above the developing volume of control. So if the developing point of control becomes resistance, I don't want to be a buyer. Let's just watch. Let's see. I actually think that might mean, now that we've given it back, that might mean it's going lower. This would be a short because it's got a diamond and we've tested above the VPOC and rejected. This is a short for the same reason as this. That's the trade. But like I said, in the past, what I've seen is those diamonds result in a retest. And so they get stopped out a lot. But I'm wondering if maybe that doesn't happen when you've established below VPOC. Let's see. Do they take this high? Or are they just going to chop in this area and close it above 11,000? That's a really good result for bulls if they do. If they hold this and establish above 11,000 without testing it, wow. Really impressed. Glad I have some longs in my longer term one, but just didn't have the guts to hold the calls overnight. Okay, so here they come to test that diamond. Now, if they test above it and then roll over, that's usually a pretty good scalp. But it's the last 9 minutes of the day. Do you really want to give away $200? I mean, I have to ask myself, do I really want to give away, like potentially give away $200 that I can't make back until tonight? On a play that like I'm sort of still developing, like, not really. Okay, we got the arrow here, and as you can see, arrows generally produce support and resistance. That's the easiest way to say it. When they get beat, you get potentially evacuations, and then I'm wondering if that creates resistance here, especially when it's arrow pink bar diamond or arrow pink bar star. See, these all just took off. But notice how we can't return to that support zone, and when we do, we get another arrow. Pretty bullish. But you'd have to be so brave to buy this. Like confident that you're just going to squeeze before the end of the day. Pretty tough. Okay, let's see if they try to trap this back in. Nope. No trap back in. Ben is not getting set up. You had to be aggressive. You had to aggressively buy that pullback. Oh, wait. Did they set me up? Did I just not take it? That's a long. How did I not take that? I said that because we rejected that it won't be valid. That worked exactly how it's supposed to. So I got to work that out. That's exactly what we're supposed to see. Pull back into the volume area and give a green bar, volume shift higher. That's the trade. So why is it that works, but when this rejects off, this fails? What's the difference? Volume shift higher. We establish below the midpoint with volume. It could be that the higher time frame just got so bullish that it doesn't matter. But that is the entry I was looking for. I just gave up on it because I thought this was bearish. At least I didn't short and stay short, but why does this not create resistance here? I get why it would lift. I don't get why they wouldn't hold it. It might just be because it's the end of the day. And like just like I was saying, they just don't want to be short overnight. But usually a rejection of the developing VPOC and developing volume below would invalidate the longs. I don't know. I don't know. Everything about that's right. I just didn't think it would work. So, all right, here's another diamond with an arrow. Let's see if it works right away for a short. Because that's what we saw earlier. Yeah. Okay. Purple diamonds might be okay when they have an arrow on it. Interesting. For the very first try. Does it come back up and trap back in? Because normally what I would do is I'd wait for it to come back up here, test above it, and roll over, then I'd short. 5 minutes left, though. Hard to forward test the last 5 minutes of the day, but you'd expect them to reject here. No opportunity. You can see the momentum has clearly died off. But this test down here is pretty strong, so I don't think they're going to go much lower than this. Could be wrong. Oh, was it established before? It was. So we also had an arrow here before. Making a retrace less likely. But I just wonder if maybe all you need is that one arrow. Man, I see the potential for all these additional aggressive trades, but if I don't have it figured out right, oh, I missed this too. This is capitulation, making that a great short. Fuck, I'm just not paying attention, or they're just doing it fast. I think I'm just distracted. So notice the low volume node is becoming a high volume area. They're renegotiating it. So if we establish higher than that, we won't have to come back. If we establish lower, it becomes resistance. And look at how nicely that low volume area worked for a pivot. See that? That is classic. Like I said, I just talked myself out of looking for a long anymore, but it set up exactly how I thought it would initially. What got me... Oh, and you know what? They established volume above the midpoint here. I totally looked at that wrong. Oh my goodness. It's a little confusing. I'm definitely going to have to program it in because you need to keep the VPOCs on one side of the midpoint and then you'd need to, so this midpoint would have to be behind the VPOC to be bearish there. I see. Like this. If we get midpoint beyond the VPOC and then reject it, then it's bearish. Okay, that actually makes sense. That's actually a lot easier for me to understand. I'm glad that's the way it is. Okay, so see how all of the volumes at the high, and then on the way down, all the volumes at the low? It's going to be really hard to push the market higher now. If we had more than a minute, I'd be looking for a retrace to short because now we're getting the midpoint below the developing VPOC, and so a bounce up to here now would be bearish. As long as they reject it there, but they should be able to jump up and test that developing VPOC. It's crossing with the midpoint of the channel. They just leave it high and dry. Watch them rug pull to 11,000. That'd be funny. Just 50 points. Let's just see what they do here. And then I'm going to take one more break and we're going to go dig in a little bit to some of these new ideas. I just haven't seen a day this volatile for a while. And it's always good to see what your since I've got the ability to actually see what my setups look like visually, I want to see what's working and what's not and see if there might have been I may need to make some adjustments to like optimize when I'm trading what, because I was not aggressive enough today. I missed a lot of opportunities. Some of them I just flaked on, but many of them I actually got into the trade and then recognized that I didn't have the high odds situation and I exited right away rather than letting the medium odds trade work out. So, and like I said, results over and over again were demonstrating that I was making the wrong choice. I should have been more aggressive considering the algo was working so well. I should have taken that as a sign that I should be trading more aggressively. $5 frickin' rally though, you guys. 5. What's this about Pelosi? I don't know what happened with Pelosi. Oh, January 6th. She was calm trying to get help. I see. Schumer and Pelosi
were in a secure location on the phone doing everything they can to organize backup to clear out the Capitol. Wow, everyone aware Trump is doing nothing and yeah, well, okay, that's interesting. Not going to get political, but that obviously has nothing to do with this rally, I don't think. I mean, if people are trying to understand like why did this happen, like this big move, like how do you get a rally like this to happen in just a matter of hours, right? Like how do you get this? The way you get it is by trading underneath the previous day's support, and then finding buyers at a point where here they trapped sellers. So you haven't been down here for a long time. You'd have to go back before this contract started, right? But that doesn't even matter. It's not even about that. It's the fact that we traded slightly below an important level and humans sold it at the open, but the algos weren't selling. They were actually absorbing. And so when they tried to take it again, it couldn't even reach the level and it took off. And then any tests of any previous level would be a long. So this is a clear long, even though it's late. This is a clear long. This is probably close enough. This is probably close enough, but a little bit scary. That's probably the last one I would take because they actually closed the candle below. But if you go to the 30-minute chart, you'll find more and more. Like see that actually closed below it, so that's not great. And that's where I sold my calls. But if you go to a smaller time frame, you'll see you have many opportunities. Again, you wouldn't know it's bullish here, and there's no reason to buy it. They do make a lower low, and then the lower low at open, and the algos absorb, and then buy, and then human traders follow them. So any of these tests of any of these levels, this one technically stops out, but you know that they're not always going to work. This one, this one, this one, this one. This one stops out, right? Gets into consolidation. This is a lower low that comes back up, so I wouldn't buy the low, but I'd buy up here if I could. This goes below the level and then retakes it. So it's okay, but you don't want to hold past the high. So once you break this high, you aggressively exit. And then you stop taking them. So that's not a buy. This is not a buy. Okay? I explained it in my video on targeting with the Voodoo range. Okay, let me take a quick break, grab something to eat real quick, and in fact, let's break it here. It's already been going for almost 4 hours. Let's break it here, and then in a couple minutes, 15 minutes or so, I will put out a new link to look into some of these new ideas, because that way I can easily reference it so I can review it later, and if people just want to see the crazy day today, they can just end the stream here. So thank you for watching. I'm going to leave this one up on YouTube. You're always welcome to send questions to me at Red Ben Trader on Twitter. If you want to know more about the algo or more about the trading room or anything like that, just email me. I mean, just DM me on Twitter. Yeah, hopefully this is interesting to you guys. It was a fun day. I'm glad I ended strong, but I wish it would have been a banner day. It was just kind of a above average day, but that's okay. There's lots to learn.